Chapter 2669. The city lord made his move. The old man's name was Tai Yanchu. He was the city lord of this city and Tai Yang'an's father. However, when the old man arrived, he was dumbfounded by the human-shaped crops that were planted on the street. Moreover, among the crops, he saw his son's legs shaking powerlessly. His upper body was buried in the ground. It was extremely comical. Most importantly, he saw the blood between her legs. At this moment, his eyes turned red. He had been practicing martial arts all his life and had accumulated a lot of experience. Eventually, he was valued by Tating Commandery and became a governor. He had a son at an old age, so he was very fond of his son, the Taiyan root, and was afraid that it would melt in his mouth and fall in his hands. But now, his son had been crippled and planted on the ground. He was in a sorry state. Most importantly, he had no descendants. Who did this? An angry roar soared into the sky, and all the warriors in the city were startled like cicadas in winter. The city lord was furious. Was it you? The old man was like a lion. His gaze swept across the martial artists on the street. Under his domineering gaze, several martial artists exploded and died. Sir, it's not us, it's them. Everyone on the street was pointing at the restaurant. At this moment, they were no longer afraid. Instead, they were looking forward to the miserable state of Lin Ling and the others. Surround them and bring them out. The old man's face was filled with killing intent. He pointed at the restaurant, and a large number of armored warriors shot towards the restaurant. The old man's eyes turned red as he personally dug out the extreme flame root. When he saw that his son's golden teeth had been knocked out, he was so heartbroken that he began to cry. Jen, you've suffered a lot. Father will avenge you. Tai Yan gradually woke up. When he saw his father, he couldn't help but shed tears. With snot and tears, he said, "Father, catch them. I want to castrate them. And that woman, I want to play with her until she dies." At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten that he was already impotent. However, the old man didn't forget. When he heard those words, his heart felt as if it was being cut by a knife. What a ruthless person. All of them must die today. A terrifying coldness emanated from the old man, and it caused the people on the street to shiver. They clearly knew that those young men were in trouble. They immediately raised their gloating eyes and looked at the restaurant. Bang! 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 However, at this moment, the city guards who had forced their way into the restaurant were all beaten out of the restaurant. They fell to the ground and spat out blood. More than 10 people were thrown into the sky. They tumbled like straws and they let out painful roars. Moreover, a few figures also walked out. It was falling flowers, flowing water, and the others. You're courting death. The old man became even more furious. These people were about to die, yet they still dared to be arrogant. Even more city guards rushed over. Although their cultivation levels were not low, they were geniuses with the falling flowers flowing water sword. They could fight above their cultivation levels. A fierce battle broke out on the street. The bystanders were all caught in the crossfire, and many of them died. Kill! 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 I don't believe they're that powerful. The old man seemed to have lost his mind. He pointed to the front and roared like a mad lion. Instantly, all the cultivators in the city rushed over and besieged the restaurant. But what was surprising was that the people in the restaurant were still drinking and chatting merrily. One could even hear them laughing loudly. They didn't pay any attention to what was happening outside the restaurant. The laughter of the people drinking seemed to be mocking them. The old man and all the warriors in the city seemed to have been humiliated. They didn't believe that they couldn't catch those young men, even with the power of the entire city. Attack! The people guarding outside the restaurant are getting weaker and weaker. No matter how powerful they are, they can't stop us from taking turns to fight them. They're in our territory. Even if they're tigers, they'll have to kneel down. Although many warriors were injured or killed, their fighting spirit was high. They wanted to catch those young men, even if they had to sacrifice their lives. That was because they were fighting for the dignity of Tating Commandery. Of course, the most important thing was that they saw the light of victory. Haha, your good luck has come to an end. At the thought of this, the people in the city wiped the blood from their mouths and shouted proudly. They were ready to catch those young men. I'm sorry. Lord thinks that our battle experience is too weak, so he wants us to train. Now let's continue the battle. However, just as they shouted, Little Flame and the others smiled. Elixirs appeared in their hands. After swallowing the elixirs, they recovered their luo. Human Ring Elixir. This was Lin Ling's reward from the Pride Tournament. It could recover a large amount of luo. It was an elixir that even the geniuses in the academy were jealous of. As Lin Ling had 2 dantians, he rarely ran out of luo. Hence, he gave them many elixirs. This. Damn it. Bastard. Bang. 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 Some of the people who were already exhausted fainted from anger. Some of them were so angry that they vomited blood. City Governor, please do it. The remaining people looked at the old man with pitiful expressions. They no longer had any energy to fight, and they were full of anger. However, the city governor did not do anything. After all, he was the city governor. If he attacked the younger generation, he would lose his face. Hence, the people begged him to do it. Father, please do it. Castrate them. Tai Yanzhen also begged. Forget it. I swore 1,000 years ago that I would never attack the weak. However, I will make an exception today. The old man walked out step by step. His body was filled with vicissitudes of life. Flames floated out like clouds. His talent was fire elemental. This was because he also had the bloodline of gods in Tating Commandery. Moreover, his talent was poison flame. Most importantly, his cultivation was at the 5th level of true god realm. At this moment, everyone thought that the young man in the restaurant was going to die. It was their honor to have the city governor personally take action. Even the martial artists who had vomited blood stood up in excitement. This old man has the reputation of being a drug lord in Qing province. Originally, I wanted to conceal my identity and enjoy my old age in peace. However, you despicable juniors have forced me to take action. Since this is the case, it is your fortune to be able to see this old man take action. The old man floated up. His body was filled with a domineering aura. The rolling black flames turned into a black dragon and covered the restaurant. Chapter 2670. After beating up the old one, the big one comes. Meanwhile, the eyes of the entire city were locked onto them, filled with anticipation. Quite a few people were cheering repeatedly. The city lord of the 5th level of True God Realm had made his move, and those people were captured by his own hands. However, just as the black dragon was about to envelop the restaurant, a bright light flickered and multicolored flames began to condense. It actually turned into a huge blazing sun, and with a speed that surpassed the black dragon, it pressed down from the restaurant. This was the 5 realm speed. Flame wheel. Boom. The huge fireball collided with the black dragon. In just an instant, the black dragon melted like tofu. Moreover, the fireball didn't stop. It crashed onto the ground like a giant's fist. Boom. Boom. The forbidden explosion instantly turned the entire ancient city into ashes. All the houses collapsed, and all the martial artists near the fireball were incinerated into nothingness. Flame wheel annihilation. After the terrifying power dissipated, those who were still alive felt as if they had been given a new lease of life. They were all stunned. Looking at the city lord again, he was topless and covered in blood. He was also standing there in a daze. He thought that once he made a move, the young man in the restaurant would definitely die. But in the end, someone from the restaurant also made a move. With a single move, not only was he defeated, his entire city was destroyed. His reputation as the poison lord of the firmament had once shaken the entire Qingzhou. Now, it was extremely ironic. How could he know that once the flame wheel was unleashed, even a 6th level true god realm would have to go to the underworld with hatred? After beating up the young one, the old one came? Interesting, but the old one is not that strong. Let's send someone more powerful. Now, all of you kneel down and you won't have to die. As for the governor, please call the Emperor of Tating Commandery here. If he's late by 2 hours, I don't mind killing all of him. An indifferent voice drifted out from the restaurant, leaving all the martial artists in the city speechless. How arrogant. After the Taiyan route was fixed, the Castellan came. Then the Castellan came and fixed the Castellan as well. What's more, the Castellan didn't seem to be satisfied. He even wanted the Emperor of Tating Commandery to come. This kind of arrogance was something that people had never seen in their entire lives. Who do you think you are to meet His Majesty? Someone immediately shouted angrily. For them, the master of Tating Commandery was like a god. They had to believe and worship him. Whoosh! Whoosh! Unfortunately, a couple of figures shot out just as that person's voice sounded. It was Little Flame and the rest. Bang bang bang. That person was directly planted into the ground and planted into crops again. Furthermore, Little Flame and the rest did not stop, planting all of the martial artists who were still alive like crops. Not even the women were spared. After all, Tating Commandery always bullied outsiders. They were not good people, so there was no need to give them face. Moreover, they wanted the qualifications. Now he would show them the qualifications. Who are you? The old man looked at his people with heartache, then stared at the restaurant. Tell your majesty that I'm Lin Ling, tell him to come see me. A dignified voice came from the restaurant. Ask him to come see me? He had actually asked a dignified Emperor Realm Venerable to personally come and see him. How arrogant. However, the old man reacted quickly and muttered to himself, Lin Ling, it's actually Lin Ling. All the warriors in the city came to their senses because Lin Ling was the archenemy of the Tating Commandery. Everyone in Tating Commandery had heard of Lin Ling's name. In the past, a young master of the Tating Commandery had provoked Lin Ling and caused trouble. Naturally, the Tating Commandery wanted to kill Lin Ling. However, the Tating Commandery failed again and again, and Lin Ling became stronger and stronger. In the end, he became the #1 enemy in the whole country. All of this was like a dream. Many people even knew that Lin Ling would come back one day, but they did not expect that day to come so soon. This also explained why Lin Ling was so ruthless to them. It was because they and Lin Ling were originally enemies. There was no need to think about what would happen next. The old man quickly informed the emperor. In the restaurant, Lin Ling and the rest were still drinking merrily and waiting for the arrival of the strongest man of the Tating Commandery. The merry sound of drinking undoubtedly made the people outside the restaurant grit their teeth. The strongest man of the Tating Commandery was about to arrive, but Lin Ling was not afraid at all. Instead, he drank even more merrily. He's dead meat. The old man spat out a mouthful of blood. He admitted that he was no match for Lin Ling, but he believed that Lin Ling was no match for the emperor. Then, he looked at the corpse on the ground with heartache. Because of the explosion of the Wheel of Flame, his son, Tai Yanzhen, was completely dead. The people around him had already knelt down. At this moment, they saw Tai Yangen's corpse. Their eyes were red. Lin Ling had gone too far. Lin Ling, you're here. Just as they were looking forward to it, a majestic voice finally sounded, which made all the warriors in the city excited. The emperor had arrived. His strength was beyond the true god realm. Lin Ling, let's see how arrogant he can be. At the same time, a slender figure strode over. He wore a jade crown and looked gentle. However, his eyes were shining and he had an aura of supremacy. Tai Huang, the strongest man of the Tating Commandery. There were many other experts following him. All of them were at the peak of the true god realm. It was as if an army had arrived. Of course, when Tai Huang arrived, he looked at the crops on the ground and heard the merry drinking in the restaurant. His face turned cold. This was because he was furious. This was because Lin Ling had given him a huge welcome gift. It was as if Lin Ling had treated him like heir. Lin Ling was looking down on the 4 commanderies. Bang! 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 Almost at the same time, the other experts landed on the ground and looked coldly at the restaurant. Your Majesty, this man is too arrogant. He killed my son. You must avenge me. The governor quickly hugged Tai Yangen's corpse and said with tears and snot. The other warriors who were kneeling and those who had been turned into crops were crying out bitterly. I'm here. Tai Huang replied coldly. Rumble. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the sky was filled with an ominous aura. It was as if the gates to the underworld had been opened. A huge fist fell from the sky and went straight for Tai Huang. The fist was filled with white bones and carried a terrifying aura. It was not something a true God realm expert could possess. Protect the emperor. Seeing this, many generals were shocked and quickly protected Tai Huang. Although Tai Huang did not need their protection, this was the dignity of the emperor. They had to protect it with their lives. However, although the terrifying fist seemed to be aimed at Tai Huang, it was actually aimed at the governor on the ground. A strong wind blew in the sky. The fist immediately shrunk and turned into a white-boned spear. It was getting closer and closer to the governor. The governor was still hugging his son. At this moment, his eyes narrowed. After killing the young, the old will come. After killing the old, the big one will come. The domineering voice was accompanied by the white-boned spear. How dare you? Tai Huang reacted immediately. Unfortunately, he was too late. The white-boned spear pierced through the governor's chest. Fresh blood spurted out, and he fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Bang! When the sound was heard, All the warriors in Tating Commandery were shocked. Arrogant. Chapter 2671. Humiliating Tating Commandery. Tai Yanzhen was dead, and so was his father. Was Lin Ling saying that it was Emperor Tai's turn next? Ask His Majesty to come here immediately. At the same time, Lin Ling's voice was heard from the restaurant. Sakura was the one who attacked earlier, because Lin Ling did not have the strength to threaten Emperor Tai. However, this was also a show of strength. In this vast universe, there was no such thing as arrogance. There was only the difference of strength. Arrogance with strength was not seen as arrogance by others. Kill them. Unfortunately, the people of Tating Commandery did not know this. They only knew that Lin Ling had bullied them. They could not take this lying down. Emperor Tai, you'd better think about it. However, at this moment, Lin Ling's voice was heard again. Emperor Tai frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, he waved his hand and said, "Ask someone to inform Tating Commandery." Your Majesty. Seeing this, many people could not understand why Tating Commandery would listen to Lin Ling. After all, no matter how strong Lin Ling was, he could not stop the entire Tating Commandery. However, Emperor Tai ignored them and said coldly, "Can't you hear my order?" He knew very well that Lin Ling was not a fool. Since he dared to come here so arrogantly, Lin Ling must have something to say. Moreover, Tating Commandery also wanted to kill Lin Ling. Therefore, Emperor Tai asked him to come. In this way, he was not afraid that Lin Ling would cause any trouble. Tating Commandery, I, Lin Ling, do not have any great enmity with you. In the past, one of your sons came to my hometown to kill people and was killed by me. After that, you tried to kill me again and again. Today, I'm just returning what you have done to me. While everyone was waiting, Lin Ling's voice was heard from the restaurant again. It was very cold. Lin Ling, I admit that you are very powerful. You have escaped the pursuit of Tating Commandery many times. But do you think you can escape this time? The Emperor Tai looked at the restaurant and said, Tating Commandery and Lin Ling were mortal enemies, so it was normal for Lin Ling to provoke them. However, if they came to his territory to provoke him, they might not be able to leave alive. You don't have to worry about that. Let's wait until His Majesty arrives. Lin Ling disdained to say anything more, and slowly drank with his brothers. We will be waiting for you. The Grand Emperor sneered and ordered his men to bring out the dragon throne and wait quietly. The warriors of Tating Commandery also calmed down and stood still, waiting to see how Lin Ling and the others would die. He should be beheaded in public and hung at the city gates. If that was the case, Tating Commandery would be famous in Qingzhou. After all, killing Lin Ling was something to be proud of. This Grand Emperor has the demeanor of a king. He is being bullied, but he can still remain calm. The people in the restaurant did not know what they were thinking. Sakura said lightly, if it was someone else, they would have started a fight. However, the Grand Emperor did not. He endured the humiliation and was really something. He just wants to drag Tating Commandery down with him. Lin Ling picked up his wine glass and clinked it with Sakura, smiling slightly. Lord Lin Ling, we have fought with all the warriors in the city. Now, our strength has improved a lot. Falling Flowers and Flowing Water Sword was at another table and was very excited. It was a rare opportunity to fight with all the strong warriors in the city. Of course, if they did not follow Lin Ling, they would never have this opportunity. These guys are still in the mood to drink? The shopkeeper hid in the distance and muttered to himself. He was completely convinced by these young men. Shopkeeper, more wine. Yes. At this time, Lin Ling's voice came. The shopkeeper was so scared that he directly sat on the ground and then rushed out to serve the wine. Lin Ling was casually chatting with Sakura, but his mind was thinking about the evil flame transformation. Previously, he used the Heart of Flame God again, but he found that the evil flame god was getting bigger and bigger. It wanted to devour Lin Ling's consciousness, but it failed in the end. In fact, the evil flame god did not have intelligence. It did everything by instinct. It was a demon spirit born from a cultivation technique. I have to find a way to suppress it. Yes. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. He had a strong will, and it was difficult for his consciousness to be devoured. However, no matter how strong his will was, there would be times when he was tired. For example, when he was seriously injured and unconscious, the evil flame god would take advantage of him. Therefore, Lin Ling had to be careful. I am back. Yes. At this time, a cold voice came from the sky. A ray of light rushed to the sky, and a pair of golden wings flew from the distance. It was extremely dazzling. Sunbone. Yes. Seeing this, all the martial artists in Tating Commandery shouted excitedly. Sunbone, one of the 9 heavenly gifts of Qingzhou, was the pride of Tating Commandery. He was also here. Your Majesty, what happened? Yes. In the sky, the golden wings disappeared and a young man in armor appeared. His aura was endless and was not much weaker than Emperor Tai. Looking at Sunbone, Emperor Tai smiled with relief. You are back? Then he told Sunbone what had happened. Sunbone was not only the pride of Tating Commandery, but also the descendant of Tating Commandery. When Emperor Tai stepped down from the throne, he planned to pass the throne to Sunbone. Lin Ling, get out here. After knowing Lin Ling's arrogant behavior, Sunbone was so angry that his hair danced wildly. A mere Lin Ling dared to behave atrociously in his house? Unfortunately, the restaurant was still full of laughter and chatter. Lin Ling and the others completely ignored him, as if he was a fly. Don't worry, he can't run away. Emperor Tai waved his hand. Sunbone snorted and endured it for the time being. However, he was getting angrier. In the past, in the 8 gods' heavenly palace, Lin Ling was just an ant. If it weren't for the guide, he would have easily killed Lin Ling. But who would have thought that this ant would grow too quickly? Now, Lin Ling's name had already shaken the entire Azure province. Of course, even so, Sunbone still didn't care about Lin Ling. However, before he could do anything to Lin Ling came to humiliate Tating Commandery? Courting death, he was courting death. Although Lin Ling is powerful, he is only ranked 30th on the Tianhua list. Sunbone is one of the 9 heavenly gifts of Qingzhou. How can a piece of trash like Lin Ling compare to him? Let's see how Lin Ling kneels down and begs for mercy later. The crowd shouted coldly and continued to wait for a good show. Sunbone, how pitiful. You're being bullied by a junior? At this moment, a carefree voice suddenly floated. In the distance, a slovenly man strolled over. He had braids and was neither fat nor thin. He looked ordinary. Who the fuck are you? What right do you have to talk about Sunbone? Many people were stunned. Then, many warriors shouted angrily. How dare this slovenly man mock Sunbone? Haha, I'm nobody. I'm just passing by. The man smiled and flicked his finger. A huge black primordial realm appeared in the sky like a black sun and floated to the ground. Rumble. Chapter 2672. It was earth-shattering. He's so powerful. At this moment, the faces of the people from Tating Commandery changed dramatically. Tell me, let's see who has bad breath. The man said with a bloodthirsty smile. Great Change Ape, what are you doing here? Sunbone stared at the man with a serious expression. Can't I take a look since I'm passing by? The man replied. You'd better not cause trouble. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Surprisingly, Sunbone did not attack impulsively. Apparently, he was afraid of the man. Emperor Tai's eyes flickered as he asked, Sunbone, who is he? One of the 9 heavens of Qingzhou, the Great Change Ape. Sunbone replied. It's him. Emperor Tai's expression changed. The 9 heavens of Qingzhou were the most dazzling geniuses in Qingzhou. From a certain point of view, the status and strength of these 9 geniuses were higher than Emperor Tai's. Emperor Tai had heard that the Great Change Ape was formed from a blood fetus. It drifted in the chaos of the universe for hundreds of millions of years before it was born after it obtained the essence of the sun and the moon. The moment it was born, half of the chaos of the universe shook. Of course, this was just a legend. Emperor Tai was not sure if it was true. However, he was sure that this was an existence that could not be provoked. In the restaurant, Lin Ling and the others also noticed the Great Change Ape. Sakura narrowed his eyes and said, This person is very powerful. He's one of the 9 heavens of Qingzhou. Yes. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. Indeed, those who could become heaven's messenger were not weaklings. He was sure that if he fought with that person, he would not be able to withstand a single blow. Big brother, who are the 9 heavens of Qingzhou? Lin Ling asked again. Every one of them is an earth-shattering existence. Their birth is a legend, but some of them are still a mystery. However, don't worry, one day, you'll know these legendary figures. Sakura smiled mysteriously. He thought highly of Lin Ling and knew that Lin Ling would be one of the heavens in the future. That's for sure. Lin Ling smiled confidently. Only by becoming one of the 9 heavens would he, Lin Ling, be able to leave Qingzhou. Lin Ling, I'm here. At this moment, a voice sounded. In just a short moment, those experts had completely surrounded the nearby area. Looking at the man, Emperor Tai said with a smile. He knew that the man was called the Third Tsar. Originally, only Mi Commandery was not part of the four commanderies. This tribe was born in Huanyu Desert, a barren land where even true God Realm warriors could not survive. This showed how tenacious this tribe was. Where is Lin Ling? Does he have anything to say to the emperor? Or perhaps he had some last words. Before King Only could speak, a young man beside him spoke. He was also one of the 9 heavens of Qingzhou. He was Luo Shaxiai. This was another indomitable expert. The crowd looked at the gathering of these experts, and all of them revealed looks of interest. The 4 experts here were not people that Lin Ling could stop. Lin Ling had indeed come here to die. Lin Ling, what do you have to say? Then, everyone's gaze shifted to the restaurant. Even the Great Change Ape revealed an interested expression. He had heard of Lin Ling. It was said that he was an arrogant junior. Now that he was surrounded by 2 emperors and 2 heavens, he did not know what to think. Lin Ling finally walked out of the restaurant. He had his hands behind his back. His face was calm as if he did not know that he was surrounded by experts. How bold! The Great Change Ape thought. Lin Ling was really amazing to be able to keep calm in such a situation. Lin Ling, I hope you can find an excuse to persuade us. Otherwise, you know what will happen. If you want to beg for mercy or bury the hatchet with us, you can. But you have to take out something that will move us. You can choose for yourself. We will give you the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Sun Gu and Luo Shaxiai stared at the young man below the restaurant and sneered. It was up to Lin Ling to choose. Excuse? Lin Ling said calmly. He shook his head and said, My commandery will take out 50 million divine gems and promise to never provoke me, Lin Ling. Then, from today onwards, I will write off the hatchet between me and my commandery. However, when Lin Ling's voice drifted out, the entire Tating commandery fell silent. Everyone thought that Lin Ling would beg for mercy, or even take out some treasure in hopes of making peace with the 2 commanderies. However, Lin Ling did not beg for mercy. Instead, he threatened my commandery. No, this was extortion. Haha. Luo Shaxiai and my king looked at each other, and could not help but laugh. Emperor Tai, who was beside them, almost laughed out loud. However, Lin Ling's voice drifted out again. As for Tating commandery, I want the city wall. If you agree, from today onwards, we will not interfere with each other. This time, Emperor Tai did not just almost laugh. He really laughed. Sun Gu was dumbfounded. It was bad enough that Lin Ling threatened my commandery. Now he was threatening Tating commandery as well. Could it be that he wanted to stop the 2 commanderies by himself? What a piece of trash who does not know his limits. Your Majesty, please allow me to take his head and prove the strength of Tating commandery. Let me do it. In Tating commandery, many old generals shouted angrily. In their opinion, Lin Ling was a junior who they could easily deal with without the need for His Majesty to do anything. However, Emperor Tai smiled and waved his hand. He squinted at Lin Ling and said, I want to know. What if I refuse? As soon as these words were spoken, many people's spirits rose. Lin Ling, what if His Majesty refuses? What will you do? Do you want to risk your life? Or do you want to say that this is a misunderstanding and run away with your tail between your legs? Say it, Lin Ling. More people shouted. Many people thought that Lin Ling was deliberately mystifying things. I will destroy all of you. However, before they could finish cheering, Lin Ling softly spat out a sentence. His voice was cold and earth-shattering. The martial artists of Tating commandery were dumbfounded. The martial artists of my commandery were also dumbfounded. Previously, when Lin Ling threatened them, they thought that Lin Ling was crazy. However, not only did Lin Ling threaten them, he even threatened to destroy them if they did not comply. By himself? Ignorant child, I will capture you. Chapter 2673. Kill all over the country. A level 9 awakened divine body at the 8th stage of True God Realm was not to be underestimated in Qingzhou. Lin Ling would not be able to resist such cultivation. The ever-victorious general. Yes, many martial artists from Only My Commandery were excited. That was the #1 general of Only My Commandery. Only My king, don't you think you've gone too far? How could you act faster than me in my territory? Emperor Tai looked at Only My king with dissatisfaction. In his opinion, It was Tating Commandery who had captured Lin Ling first. It doesn't matter who did it. Anyway, Lin Ling can't escape today. Only my king knew that although Emperor Tai looked dissatisfied, his words were actually filled with excitement. After all, Lin Ling's talent was obvious to all. If he was given more time, he would definitely achieve great things. However, Lin Ling was too impatient. He did not wait for his growth before seeking revenge. This was exactly what they wanted. At this moment, the rolling sandstorm turned into a lion and enveloped Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling still had his hands behind his back. He would not be shocked even if the sky collapsed. I have to say that he is calmer than we thought. Yes, he must be pretending. Yes, people were in a good mood as they talked about it. However, at this moment, a big saber suddenly fell from the sky with the power to cut 100 realms. The saber slashed the lion. Oh no! This sudden change caused the two emperors' expressions to change drastically. When they wanted to take action, it was obviously too late. Rumble! The saber slashed down and all the sand was separated. Then a huge lion's head fell to the ground, dripping with blood. Along with it was the body of an old man. It was the ever-victorious general. This king of the 8th stage of True God Realm had been killed with a single slash. This meant that the person who had come was definitely someone who had surpassed the True God Realm. Bang! At the same time, a white-haired but spirited old man descended from the sky and smashed the entire Tating Commandery into pieces. Who dares to come here to die? The old man's arrogant voice, which caused countless people's expressions to change drastically. Who are you? Emperor Tai asked with a frown. However, his expression was very serious because the strength of this person was not any weaker than him. Fujitor, Marshal of the 1,000-Trick Battalion of the 6 armies. The old man's voice was like thunder, causing the Grand Emperor's pupils to constrict. 1,000-Trick Battalion. So what? I don't believe that an old ghost like you can protect Lin Ling. But soon, a cold shout was heard from the Grand Court County. Then dozens of figures shot out. These people were all very old, but their strength was not much weaker than the ever-victorious general. They were the 49 Heaven Suppression Fire Generals of Tating Commandery. In their opinion, the 49 generals could definitely kill Marshal Qianji. Although the other party's identity couldn't be underestimated, it was better to kill him first. Old ghost, you've come to the wrong place to be arrogant. Their arrogant voices were heard in unison, which made the warriors of Tating Commandery feel their blood boiling. Previously, only the general of my commandery had failed. Sure enough, only Tating Commandery could suppress Lin Ling. This also proved that Tating Commandery was more powerful. Boom, boom, boom. Unfortunately, just as their blood rushed to their heads, meteors fell from the sky. They were so huge that they covered the sky like giants falling from the sky. Most importantly, it was not one giant, but 100 of them. What is that? What a terrifying aura. The generals who attacked turned pale. Some of them even attacked the meteors in the sky. Unfortunately, the meteors seemed to be made of metal. Any attack that landed on them only caused sparks to fly. They were safe and sound. On the contrary, the 49 generals were smashed into meat paste after the giants fell. They didn't even have time to cry out in pain. Rumble. As for Tating Commandery, it was as if it had been destroyed. The ground cracked and the whole country collapsed. In the dust, the figures of the giants finally appeared. They were hundreds of steel giants. They were the martial god giants. They were all expressionless. They were taller than towers and more magnificent than city walls. Their metallic luster bloomed, as if they could easily slaughter a country. These giants were also the symbols of the Ministry of War of the Great Qing Divine Dynasty. This time, the people of the two commanderies were shocked. Lin Ling could actually summon the martial god giants, and it wasn't just one, but several hundred of them. They couldn't react to this result at all. Your Majesty, this is bad. A large number of experts came from the east and attacked the city with divine beasts. Just as the Grand Emperor's eyes widened, someone rushed over anxiously from afar and knelt down to pass down the order. It was urgent news. What's going on? Let the army kill them. The Emperor Tai frowned. Why were their experts attacking at this time? How strange. Of course, he didn't care because Lin Ling was more important at the moment. Your Majesty, our army couldn't stop them. 200 million people guarding the east of the city were annihilated in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. The embarrassed person knelt down and said. His words made Tating Commandery even more silent. 200 million people were annihilated in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Could it be the martial god? This is bad, Your Majesty. Thousands of beasts are attacking the city in the north. The north of the city has fallen. Another urgent news came, which made the Emperor Tai realize that this was no small matter. When did this happen? Who are they? Where are they now? Emperor Tai said anxiously. In fact, Tating Commandery had been established for many years, and it was not the first time they faced such a situation. Unfortunately, most of them were defeated. Moreover, Tating Commandery was so big that it fell in such a short time. This showed how powerful the invaders were. It happened 30 minutes ago. They were all wearing the same armor. They're here now. The person knelt down and said, "Thud, thud, thud." The Emperor Tai took 3 steps back. What kind of experts could kill the entire country in 30 minutes? Your Majesty, this is bad. The West. At this time, another news came. Nonsense. My army is in the West. Before the man could finish his sentence, only King shouted angrily and interrupted him. He was not a fool. Today, he had come here to prevent the Tating Commandery from harming them. Therefore, he had ordered the army to guard the West, so that they could have a way to retreat. But now the West had also fallen? This must be a joke. However, the person didn't even look at King only. Instead, he knelt down in front of the Emperor Tai and said, "The army of Tating Commandery and our army guarding the west of the city, a total of 500 million people, were annihilated." Exclamation point. This. Hearing this, the 2 emperors couldn't help but exclaim. How could there be such a powerful force in Qingzhou? Who called for this? This is fake. King only didn't seem to believe it. He even thought that it was a trap set by the Emperor Tai. Rumble. However, the facts proved that the Emperor Tai was innocent. It also proved that there was an army coming. In the west, silk banners were waving and iron hooves were ruthless. Chapter 2674. They must be domineering. In the east, military flags fluttered in the wind. Martial God Barracks, War God Barracks. In the north, Myriad Phoenix Barracks, Sky Tribute Barracks. In the south, Thousand Trick Barracks. The mighty army was like a tidal wave that covered the entire sky. Their murderous aura shook the heavens. Great Azure Divine Dynasty, 6 Barracks. Seeing this, the 2 emperors widened their eyes and roared at the same time. As for their citizens, they were so frightened that they knelt down, their bodies trembling. No wonder the newcomers were unstoppable. They were the 6 barracks of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Although the armies of the 2 commanderies were powerful, how could they compare to the 6 barracks? Killing everyone in the country was not a joke. I want to see your Grand Secretary. I want to ask him what happened. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Emperor Tai said hurriedly. He still did not understand what had happened. Don't look for him. He is not free. If you want to see him, see me. However, an indifferent voice suddenly resonated in the sky. It was as if it came from the void. No one knew who it was. However, only Mi King hurriedly bowed respectfully and said, "May I know who you are?" "I am Lin Ling." The voice floated again, but this time, everyone finally saw who was speaking. It was Lin Ling, who was in front of the restaurant. Silence. Tating Commandery fell into a dead silence. "It's you." As for the 2 emperors, they stared at the blue-robed young man through the martial god giant. Although they knew that Lin Ling's background was not weak, they never dreamed that Lin Ling could summon the 6 barracks to battle. This was no small matter. Putting aside whether the Great Azure Divine Dynasty approved of Lin Ling's actions, how could the marshals of the 6 barracks easily obey the orders of a junior? But now, this kind of impossible thing really happened. At this moment, they had mixed feelings and were speechless. Even the Sunbone and the Sand Spike had their mouths wide open. Their expressions were extremely serious. Actually, with their status, they weren't afraid of the 6 tribes. However, they couldn't guarantee the safety of their own people. Moreover, if they were to really clash with the 6 tribes, it would be an arduous and thankless task for them. Lin Ling, you actually dared to privately mobilize the 6 battalions. I will report this to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty and convict you of a great crime. Immediately order the army to retreat. After recovering from his shock, Sunbone suppressed his anger and spoke with a cold expression. In fact, he was completely flustered when facing the 6 tribe barracks. You don't have to worry about that. Lin Ling's gaze was as sharp as a knife as he said indifferently, however, you have besieged the grand marshals of the 6 military camps. This is an act of defiance against your superiors. Based on this, I have the right to annihilate these two commanderies. You. The two emperors pointed at Lin Ling angrily. It was clearly Lin Ling who called them over, and then they besieged Lin Ling. But now it became a crime of insubordination. Lin Ling was clearly slandering them. Lin Ling was definitely doing this on purpose. He had come prepared. I refused to accept this. Only King was fuming with anger. However, what was the use of refusing to accept this? Kill! Lin Ling waved his hand coldly, and the army pressed forward. Thump! Thump! The hearts of the people from the two commanderies beat violently. They could not stop this ruthless army. At this moment, they suddenly remembered what Lin Ling had said before. Annihilate you. At that time, they only had sarcasm, disdain, and ridicule. But now they only had regret, pain, and fear. Moreover, they could not help but think of everything about Lin Ling. One should know that Lin Ling was not famous at the beginning. When he really became famous, it was when the two commanderies repeatedly hunted down Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling was still alive. This made the two commanderies feel as if they had been humiliated, and it also made Lin Ling the most wanted criminal in the commanderies. But now, this wanted criminal had grown up, and he had suppressed the two commanderies with his enormous courage. All of this was like a dream. Every dog has its day. In the past, you all thought that I was an ant that could be easily killed. Unfortunately, in my eyes today, you are the ants that can be easily killed. While they were still in shock, Lin Ling's voice drifted out. The people from the two commanderies could feel how terrifying Lin Ling was. This was a person who could shake the heavens and earth as long as he was alive. Lin Ling, I agree to your terms. Just as the army was about to slaughter the people, the Emperor Tai finally shouted and lowered his noble head. Because of the oppression of the situation, he had no choice but to lower his head. I can't hear you. Come and kneel in front of me and say it. Lin Ling sneered and said calmly. In fact, his purpose today was not to slaughter, but to threaten. After all, although he was the Grand Marshal, slaughtering two commanderies was an earth-shattering event, and it would be troublesome to deal with. Kneel. Make His Majesty kneel? The people were even more confused. Their Majesty, who they believed in, had to kneel in front of Lin Ling? I agree. However, the Emperor Tai was indeed an ambitious person, and he immediately nodded his head in agreement. Of course, it was easy to say, but in reality, he was heartbroken. But what could he do? If he did not sincerely apologize, Tating Commandery would cease to exist, and he would become the biggest sinner of Tating Commandery. He could not bear this sin. Your Majesty. Sun Bone was the most upset out of all of them. He could easily kill Lin Ling, but he didn't dare to act rashly because Lin Ling was the Grand Marshal. This feeling of being stuck between a rock and a hard place was the worst. And only King, you have to hand over 300 million divine gems. Kneel in front of me and say that from now on, don't provoke me, Lin Ling, and I will let this matter rest. Lin Ling said again. All right, I agree. Only King's heart was also bleeding. If he had known that Lin Ling was so terrifying, he would have agreed to Lin Ling's conditions. After all, at that time, it was only 50 million divine gems. Now it was 300 million. Plop. When the two majesties knelt down, the world was silent. Plop. For the dignity of the two majesties, everyone knelt down as well. The only one who was still standing was Lin Ling. That blue robe, at this moment, was like a king descending to the world. Your Excellency, you are so majestic. Falling flowers, flowing water, and the others walked out of the restaurant and smiled proudly. Of course, even in my hometown, everyone who provoked my brother can only die with hatred. Little Flame waved his fist excitedly. Lin Ling could always overcome all difficulties and turn defeat into victory. After this matter is over, the great Azure Divine Dynasty will definitely be alarmed tomorrow. In addition, Lei Tianlan's death will let some people who are eyeing covetously know that if they want to touch Lin Ling, they have to consider the consequences. Sakura smiled meaningfully. Lin Ling's action was also to establish his power. Although it would cause public anger, at least 80% of the people would not dare to provoke Lin Ling. This was not only good for Lin Ling, but also for the rainforest's sacred land. Chapter 2675. The experts blocking the way. Pay up and get lost. Get lost. At this moment, Lin Ling looked at the two powerhouses in front of him and said calmly. How could he not know that these two majesties were unwilling to accept this? He even knew that they hated him to the core. It was just that they did not dare to act rashly. Lin Ling had done what he needed to do and warned them. Whether they would understand or not was not something that Lin Ling could predict. As for the two emperors, their throats seemed to be on fire. But when they looked up at the dense army, they finally stood up and quietly made way. Lin Ling did not even look at them. He took a step forward and flew toward the city wall of Tating Commandery. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The ancient city wall of Tating Commandery was collapsing. The city wall was built when the country was founded. It was also the symbol of Tating Commandery and carried the memories of countless people in Tating Commandery. But now this ancient symbol was collapsing. Lin Ling. Rumble. Sensing the earth-shattering rumble, Emperor Tai's teeth were chattering. Naturally, he knew how precious the city wall was because it was made from the corpse of the 10,000-world beast. Once, there was a king in the great Azure Divine Dynasty who wanted to buy the city wall from him. Unfortunately, he had rejected him in the end. He had also rejected that king's favor. But today, it all went to Lin Ling. If he had known this would happen, he would have sold it to the prince in exchange for a huge favor. It's really hard. Rumble. At the border of Tating Commandery, Lin Ling was floating there. The Shura sword formation appeared around him. These swords formed a complex bounded array and kept hitting the city wall, bursting with dazzling sparks. Lin Ling smiled. With the corpse horror of the realm-swallowing beast in his hands, Lin Ling was confident that his divine devil body would reach a higher level. And after the divine devil body was upgraded, the third Dantian would be born. One should know that he could dominate the two commanderies today only because of the 6 military camps. But personal strength was the basis for him to roam the universe. Without strength, how could he have any power? After an unknown period of time, when the walls around Tating Commandery had completely disappeared, many warriors in Tating Commandery were crying. In their hearts, Lin Ling was the devil. Unfortunately, Lin Ling did not pay attention to them at all. He led the army and retreated. It was as if that kind of carefreeness had never appeared before. Of course, if the ancient city had not disappeared, people would have thought that Lin Ling had indeed never appeared. But now, Lin Ling had killed the young one, then the old one, and finally extorted the big one. This had already left them with memories that they could not erase. Interesting. This Lin Ling really doesn't look at the consequences of his actions. The Great Change Ape smiled. In the Great Azure Divine Dynasty, authority was only a tool. If Lin Ling thought that he could ignore everything just because he was the Grand Marshal, then Lin Ling would definitely suffer. After all, if Lin Ling were to clash with the first generation of the 3 great academies, the 6 barracks would have no right to help him. This was also because Lin Ling's current status was mostly due to his potential. But what if others had the same potential? Obviously, the Great Azure Divine Dynasty would choose better geniuses. After leaving Tating Commandery, Lin Ling took out a large number of divine gems as a reward to the 6 barracks. The army cheered and was extremely excited. After all, if he was the Grand Secretary, he would not be as unscrupulous as Lin Ling. The army continued to move forward, but on the way, they met 2 people who blocked their way. These 2 people stood on a mountain peak heading towards Qingzhou. Both of them had their hands behind their backs, as if they were cold stone statues. However, the wind and clouds around them were rolling, forming a vacuum area. It was not to be underestimated. Stop! Lin Ling's eyes, which were as calm as an ancient well, flickered for a moment on the ground. He raised his fist and stopped the large army behind him. On the mountain peak, the person on the left was wearing a large red feather cloak. The red feathers made him look like a fire phoenix. The other person was wearing a long robe with fish patterns. He was not old, but he had the aura of an emperor. These 2 people stood there quietly, as if they were divine kings looking at the myriad of worlds. Marquis of Sovereign Justice, what is the meaning of this? After a moment of silence, Marshal Qianji took the lead to speak. That's right, the person who had come was the Marquis of Sovereign Justice. This was an ambitious and ruthless person. In the Great Azure Divine Dynasty, who did not know his name, he was domineering and had a knife hidden in his smile. However, even if the strong cultivators from all sides knew of his character, there were not many who dared to go against him. TSK, Lin Ling, you are generous. On the mountain peak, the Marquis of Sovereign Justice, who was wearing a red feather cloak, smiled at Lin Ling. That smile was very friendly, as if he and Lin Ling were good friends. However, the more he was like this, the more it showed that he was temperamental. Marquis of Sovereign Justice, what do you want? Lin Ling looked up and said coldly. No, I am just passing by and wanted to see a friend. The Marquis of Sovereign Justice smiled again. Your friend is not here. Now scram. Lin Ling looked at the Marquis of Sovereign Justice fearlessly. His words made many people behind him exclaim in surprise. Lin Ling had actually asked the Marquis of Sovereign Justice to scram. The young man behind the Marquis of Sovereign Justice narrowed his eyes. The 6 paths of reincarnation actually appeared in his eyes. This 6 paths of reincarnation was different from the one Lin Ling had cultivated in the past. It was even more mysterious and massive. He was obviously angry that Lin Ling had actually spoken to the Marquis of Sovereign Justice in such a manner. However, the Marquis of Sovereign Justice waved his hand slightly, making the young man suppress his anger. The Marquis of Sovereign Justice then said, "After seeing my friend, I will scram immediately." These words made the young man even angrier. Although Lin Ling had some ability, how could he be a match for the Marquis of Sovereign Justice? He thought that Lin Ling was too lucky. However, he didn't know that the Marquis of Sovereign Justice was so easy to talk to because of the presence of the 6 military camps. Otherwise, this Marquis of Sovereign Justice would have already made his move. Lin Ling, I didn't expect you to be so capable. I, the Marquis of Sovereign Justice, have underestimated you. However, I don't have any great enmity with you. It's just a small conflict. I, the Marquis of Sovereign Justice, admire heroes, especially rising stars. Therefore, we can be friends, said the Marquis of Sovereign Justice. Upon hearing this, Lin Ling sneered. He didn't doubt the Marquis of Sovereign Justice's words. However, this kind of friendship was built on benefits. What the Marquis valued was his identity as the Grand Marshal. Moreover, if he were to be friends with this person, he would be smiling at him one moment and attacking him the next. You are not qualified. Therefore, Lin Ling rejected him directly. Do you know who you are talking to? As soon as he said this, the young man's robe fluttered and a murderous aura surged. He obviously couldn't hold it in any longer. Without waiting for the Marquis of Sovereign Justice to speak, he immediately attacked. He jumped up, and a huge eye appeared behind him. It was like the 6 paths of reincarnation. In the eye, a white Grim Reaper shot out. Its speed had also reached a terrifying level. The strongest second-generation Lin Ling. Let me, the Grim Reaper, meet you. Kill. Chapter 2676. The Clash of the Strongest. Lin Ling's pupils constricted when he sensed the majestic aura. His opponent was very powerful. He was a level 5 true god with a divine body and a true god martial soul. That true god martial soul was extremely powerful. Death God's reincarnation? Lin Ling thought as he quickly unleashed his strength. Colorful flames spread out and engulfed Lin Ling. In the next moment, the flaming coffin was born. No one is allowed to attack. When Lin Ling disappeared into the flaming coffin, his voice drifted out. The 6 barracks were stunned, but they tacitly dispersed, leaving the boundless mountains and rivers for the 2 young men to use as a stage. Marshal Qianji, who is that? He's so powerful. Yes, he has such strength at such a young age. If he's given more time, I'm afraid we won't be his match. This person is definitely the top of the 3 academies. Then, the marshals murmured with shock in their eyes. Born as a god, dead as a demon. Jumping out of the 3 realms, immortal and indestructible. Lin Ling, when you see the Marquis of Sovereign Heaven, you can only kneel down. At the same time, the death god arrived. A sickle fell from the sky and slashed the flaming coffin. Boom, boom, boom. The ground immediately cracked as if the heavens were falling and the earth was splitting. The flaming coffin seemed to have been split into 2. Since you're in the coffin, you'll be in the coffin forever. The young man's cold voice rang out. The terrifying thing was that the white sickle actually slashed the space-time flame, causing the Earth's aura to become chaotic and messy. My lord, second brother. In a distant place, Sakura and the rest clenched their fists in worry. Bang! However, at this moment, the raging flames erupted again. An arm full of red scales appeared and grabbed the white sickle, preventing it from slashing down. Great! Seeing this, the army cheered. Previously, they thought that the flaming coffin had been split into 2. You have some strength. You haven't even cultivated for 2,000 years, but you were able to block one of my attacks. You should be proud of that, but that's all you have. The young man was like the Grim Reaper, controlling the white Grim Reaper with the scythe in his hand. The scythe slashed out again. A gigantic white waterfall was about to slash apart the heavens. Sword. At the same time, the tyrannical song sword appeared in Lin Ling's hand, and he fiercely slashed at the white light. Clang! A deafening sound rang through the air. Sword and sickle collided, realm essence sweeping in all directions. The great mountains in the surroundings were directly flattened, moreover reaching a point where one couldn't see the end of it. This sword and this saber were terrifying. So this is the legendary flame coffin that has been raised by several realms. It is indeed powerful. When he sensed the powerful aura in front of him, the corners of the young man's mouth revealed a cold smile. Of course, he was also a little surprised in his heart. Lin Ling was only in the level 2 true god realm. However, the young man felt that the majestic realm essence was comparable to that of a level 5 true god realm. Lin Ling, your true god martial soul must have been unsealed. Otherwise, it would be impossible for your realm essence to increase by so much. The young man guessed. Unsealed? Hearing that, the expressions of all the martials changed drastically. The true god martial soul was the manifestation of one's talent. In other words, it could be said to be able to fully utilize one's talent. From a certain point of view, it could be said to be more powerful than the realm essence martial arts. True god martial souls were also divided into strong and weak. If one reached the unsealed state, his strength would be doubled. Powerful martial artists who specialized in comprehending the true god martial soul could reach the 5th seal. Their strength was unimaginable. Could it be that Lord Lin Ling is able to fight against those of a higher realm because his true god martial soul has been unsealed? Marshal Qianji and the others mumbled to themselves. They knew that Lin Ling was powerful, but they did not know how powerful he was. However, it seemed that everything could be explained now. One had to know that in the vast and boundless primal chaos, the path of martial arts was filled with all sorts of colors. Some people were strong in Jieyuan martial arts, some were strong in cultivation methods, and some had true god martial spirits. Therefore, it was very difficult for others to know how strong a martial artist was. This was also the reason why they couldn't see through Lin Ling's strength. Unsealed? At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes flickered. He naturally knew that the true god martial soul had been unsealed. However, it was difficult to unseal it. It was thousands of times harder than comprehending the realm essence seed. In the past, Li Xiaoyao had only started unsealing his true god martial soul after he had reached the true god realm. This meant that the young man in front of him was so powerful that he had unsealed his true god martial soul and increased his realm essence. This was also normal. The reason why Lin Ling's world essence was so vast was because he had 2 dantians in addition to the evil flame transformation. When all these world essence erupted, Lin Ling's world essence was at the 5th level of the true god realm, but he still couldn't suppress his opponent. This explained everything. This young man was a strong opponent. He was also one of the strongest stage 5 true gods. Moreover, his true god martial soul was very strange. His strength seemed to have been absorbed by the 6 paths of reincarnation. Then let me see how powerful your true god martial soul is. At this moment, the young man smiled coldly. His body floated backward eerily. The sickle in his hand danced in the air as if he was writing something in the sky. Gradually, white strokes appeared in the sky. What is that? It looks like a word. It's the word death. The army in the distance was shocked. They could feel a strong pressure from the word death. Come, let's see who is stronger. The young man's confident voice floated out. That's what I was thinking. Lin Ling stared at the word death solemnly. Naturally, he could sense that strange technique. However, at this moment, he was also excited. It was Lin Ling's goal to fight against the strongest generation of the 3 colleges. Flame wheel. Quietly floating in the sky, the flame god's heart appeared. Bright flames burned the sky. The ancient heart beat continuously. Flame shocks the world. What a strange true god martial soul. It should have been unsealed. The young man's eyes were filled with curiosity. However, Lin Ling did not pay attention to him. His true god martial soul had not been unsealed. If it had been, the young man would have been defeated. Lin Ling was relying on the pressure from his 2 dantians. This was also Lin Ling's secret. Naturally, he would not reveal it. Rumble. Flame wheels bloomed like flowers. However, when they contracted, they gradually condensed into a huge fireball. Not bad, not bad. You make me excited. Seeing this, the young man became excited. He seemed to be very happy. Perhaps the stronger Lin Ling was, the more his fighting spirit would be stimulated. You make me want to fight too. At the same time, Lin Ling held the huge flame wheel in his hand and shot towards the young man like a shooting star. Good timing. The young man held the sickle in his hand and attacked with the word death. The two geniuses were going against each other. Rumble. When the two different colored attacks collided, the surrounding area was immediately turned into ruins. It was as if the world had been destroyed. Moreover, the surging power frightened the army. They were shocked and full of admiration. Chapter 2677. I want a friend. Boom. Finally, a huge shockwave shot towards the heavens. The heavens split open, and chaos appeared in the universe. However, the shockwave didn't stop there. It continued to charge towards the end of the universe. All the weak realms it passed were directly destroyed into dust. This collision was so terrifying. If they fought in the 10,000 realms, many realms would collapse. Rumble. At the same time, a figure fell to the ground. It was Lin Ling. However, he quickly got up and his eyes were still evil. However, he was obviously injured. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and many of the scales on his body were broken. Rumble. On the other side, the young man was blasted to the ground. A 1,000-mile deep crater appeared on the ground. The deep crater seemed to run through Qingzhou. However, soon a white figure shot out. It was the mysterious young man. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and seemed to be injured as well. However, not only was he not angry, he was even happier. Good. You actually injured me. Not bad. The young man's voice was filled with madness. In his opinion, with his strength, Lin Ling would definitely die. However, who knew that not only did Lin Ling not die, he even injured him. If Lin Ling was the top generation of the 3 academies, there was nothing to say. However, Lin Ling was only at the 2nd level of the true God realm. This meant that he had lost this battle. This time, I won't underestimate you. Of course, the young man didn't use his full strength before. Okay, enough is enough. Stop. However, just as the young man moved, the sovereign marquis waved his hand and interrupted the battle. He seemed to be helping Lin Ling. The young man gritted his teeth, as if he was unwilling to give up. Yes, my lord. Yes. Of course, what was surprising was that the arrogant young man didn't complain and immediately retreated. Of course, he didn't feel good being injured by Lin Ling. Therefore, he looked at Lin Ling and said, "The battle of the heavenly transcendence rankings is about to begin. Lin Ling, I'll wait for you to clear the rankings." Yes, I'll be there. At this moment, Lin Ling stood on the ground like a god of war, nodding fearlessly. In reality, his injuries were not light at this moment. Many of his bones were also shattered. Moreover, the realm essence in his dantian was also completely exhausted. Moreover, Lin Ling had 2 dantians, but at this moment, the realm essence in his dantian was completely exhausted. This showed how terrifying that young man was. Coupled with the fact that once the flame wheel was utilized, any 6th-level true God realm expert would be annihilated, yet it had failed before his eyes. This also indicated that his opponent's strength was absolutely not at the 6th level of the true God realm. Then, the flames around Lin Ling's body retracted, and the demonic aura on his body also disappeared without a trace. He raised his head to look at the sovereign heaven marquis and had a higher opinion of this person. After all, not everyone could make such a powerful young man obey his orders. Of course, he didn't think that the sovereign marquis was helping him, because if the battle continued, it would eventually lead to the 6 tribes' barracks joining the fray. And at that time, the sovereign marquis's efforts would be strenuous and unrewarding. Even if he could kill the 6 military camps, he wouldn't be able to explain himself to the great Azure Divine Dynasty. The sovereign marquis had obviously thought it through very thoroughly and was also very cunning. Haha, Lin Ling, you didn't disappoint me. I think you will win the 2nd battle between you and the Grim Reaper. Go and wash the Heavenly Crossing list with blood. You should also be ranked as the strongest of the generation. At this moment, the sovereign marquis spoke again. His words seemed to be praising Lin Ling, but it caused the young man behind him to have a cold look in his eyes, and a hint of unwillingness rippled in his heart. This young man didn't realize that this was the sovereign marquis's provocation, which made the young man want to kill Lin Ling even more to prove himself. You don't have to talk nonsense. What's your purpose here? Say it. Say it. Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't fall for it at all and said indifferently. If his attitude fell into the hands of other ambitious and ruthless people, they would have already been enraged. However, the sovereign marquis wasn't an ordinary ambitious and ruthless person. He was a king who valued the results and not the process. He still smiled and said, "Lin Ling, you are a real man. Then I'll get straight to the point. Today I want to see a friend. If you can agree, I, the sovereign marquis, will owe you a favor." "Yes." "In your dreams." "Yes." However, Lin Ling rejected him immediately. Of course, he knew who the friend was. It was Queen Qianji. Based on their recent interactions, he guessed that Queen Qianji had a good relationship with the sovereign marquis. Perhaps they were geniuses from the same generation, and the sovereign marquis liked Queen Qianji. However, in the end, the sovereign marquis seemed to have his eyes on a secret of Queen Qianji's clan. That was why he slaughtered Queen Qianji's entire clan, which made Queen Qianji hate him to the core. Speaking of which, Queen Qianji was quite pitiful. If she didn't trust the sovereign marquis, her entire clan wouldn't have been wiped out. She was the sinner of her entire clan. She had been carrying this sin for thousands of years. No wonder Queen Qianji's life goal was to kill the sovereign marquis. Lin Ling, stop joking around. That person is useless to you. Why do you want to keep her alive? Yes. Lin Ling's rejection finally made the sovereign marquis's face turn cold. His words were clear. Don't challenge my bottom line again for Queen Qianji. You can be arrogant in front of me, you can shout at me, but you have to give me the thing that I want. Also, he was hinting to Lin Ling that if he gave Queen Qianji to him, they would be friends from now on. How could Lin Ling not know what he meant? Unfortunately, he didn't appreciate it at all. I'll give you one word. Get lost. Get lost. Lin Ling raised his right arm and pointed at the sovereign marquis. His attitude was firm. He would not back down. Although he and Queen Qianji were enemies in the beginning, it was Queen Qianji who saved him when he was framed by Lei Tianlan. A drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. That was Lin Ling's principle. Even if the Emperor Qing of the Great Qing dynasty was here, he would not back down, let alone the sovereign marquis. Do you really want to fight? The sovereign marquis's voice turned colder. He was not backing down either. If Lin Ling refused to hand Queen Qianji over, he would kill all 6 troops to get Queen Qianji. Come on, I'm not afraid of you. Listen up, get ready to fight to the death. Lin Ling waved his sleeves and called for the army to charge forward. It was just a matter of mutual destruction. Lin Ling was willing to fight to the death. Ha ha ha, what a stubborn young man. Not bad, I like it. I like it a lot. The sovereign marquis's voice became deeper. Those who knew him knew that he was ready to kill. Once this ambitious and ruthless character took action, the people would definitely be plunged into misery and suffering. However, as a soldier, it was his duty to obey orders. Therefore, the 6 troops did not back down. Instead, they marched forward in an orderly manner. The martial god giant was activated. Thousands of birds danced in the sky. The war chariots roared. Lin Ling, on the other hand, pointed his sword at the sovereign marquis. Needless to say, the scene was spectacular. More importantly, the sovereign marquis was a real king. He was fearless in the face of thousands of troops. Instead, the murderous aura on his body became stronger. Chapter 2678. Someone protected you. Wait. But just as the shocking battle was about to erupt, a ray of light shot out from Lin Ling's body, and his enchanting body appeared in front of everyone's eyes. It was Queen Qianji. Looking at Queen Qianji, the murderous aura around the Marquis of Sovereign Heaven controlling Marquis instantly disappeared, and he revealed a smile. Queen of Qianji, get back here. Lin Ling shouted angrily. He suddenly understood Queen Qianji's intention. Little brat, do you think you have the qualifications to tell me where I want to go? Queen Qianji said disdainfully without even looking at Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling knew that Queen Qianji didn't want him to join the fight. Lin Ling, you should go back first. I was a little reckless before. I apologize here. After the target appeared, the Marquis of Sovereign Heaven also looked at Queen Qianji. He did not even look at Lin Ling. Although he seemed to be apologizing, he actually did not care. Lin Ling, I'm tired of you. You're not strong, but you're arrogant. I don't know when I'll die if I stay by your side. So, I'd better stay away from you. Our deal is over. Goodbye. Queen Qianji still didn't look at Lin Ling. After saying that, She dashed off into the distance. Lin Ling's expression changed drastically. Just when he was about to chase after her, a cold voice entered Lin Ling's ears. Lin Ling finally stopped in his tracks. Also, this is a fated enmity between me and him. You have no right to interfere, and you should never interfere. Otherwise, we can't even be friends. The word friend was the reason why Lin Ling stopped in his tracks. Queen Qianji, get your ass back here. He roared, but it was useless. Queen Qianji walked further and further away. Queen Qianji's goal was obvious. She wanted to bring the sovereign heaven marquis away. Moreover, this matter really had nothing to do with Lin Ling, so she didn't want to implicate Lin Ling. Get back here. Lin Ling continued to roar. He clenched his fists so tightly that his nails pierced through his palms, but he didn't feel it at all. Lin Ling, don't worry. It's impossible for him to catch me. I, the Queen of Qianji, have made a name for myself in Huanyu. Of course, I have my own means to protect myself. Lin Ling, thank you for taking care of me all this time. I hope that when I'm alive, I'll be able to see you become famous in Qingzhou. I hope that you'll remember that someone once protected you. While Lin Ling was still angry, Queen Qianji's voice drifted into his mind again. This time, her voice was filled with gentleness and gratitude. Gradually, Queen Qianji disappeared. The Marquis of Sovereign Justice chased after him. Apparently, he was more interested in Queen Qianji than Lin Ling. After he left, the mysterious young man sneered at Lin Ling, "You can't do anything to the Marquis of Sovereign Justice." After he finished speaking, he also disappeared without a trace. Lin Ling stood there quietly. At this moment, he finally realized how weak he was. He couldn't wait to regain the strength of Li Xiaorao in the past. He wanted to crush and destroy everything. His body was trembling. His heart was in pain. An indescribable feeling pierced through him like a knife. Perhaps he had cherished his family and friends all his life. But this time, he couldn't do it. Queen Qianji didn't seem to want Lin Ling to get involved in this matter. But from another perspective, she was protecting Lin Ling. Lin Ling's eyes were filled with tears. Looking at the fearless man standing there quietly, the army was silent. They could understand how Lin Ling felt. Big brother. Master. Tears welled up in little flames in young martial god's eyes. Lin Ling had always been protecting them, but this time, he was protected by someone else. They could understand how he felt as he watched the person he needed to protect leave. But they never blamed Lin Ling, because they knew how heavy the pressure on Lin Ling's shoulders was. They knew how much pressure this man had to carry the world. With such pressure, let alone Lin Ling, even a god couldn't withstand it. Lin Ling had done well. Second brother. Sakura clenched his fists. In fact, he knew very well that if there was a confrontation, there would only be one result. Everyone would be wiped out. Although the sovereign marquis wouldn't be safe, at least he would still be alive. Wait until I become the leader of the sovereign marquis. I will take your head personally. Sakura secretly swore that he could give up his life in this lifetime, but there was a reverse scale that no one could touch, and that was Lin Ling. Because that was his younger brother, and even more so, his life. Unfortunately, although he was very strong now, he obviously hadn't reached the level of the sovereign marquis. I'm fine. I'm not worried about her. Just when everyone thought that Lin Ling would be depressed, Lin Ling finally raised his head and revealed a bright smile. This made the army laugh. Lin Ling seemed to have recovered. Of course, if she loses a single hair, then I will erase the sovereign marquis from this world. If Emperor Qing comes to plead for mercy, I will also erase him. Lin Ling took a step and headed towards Qingzhou, leaving behind a cold oath. Looking at the lonely yet strong man, everyone's heart was pounding. He dared to kill Emperor Qing. At this moment, the 6 camps had mixed feelings. If this really happened, they didn't know if they should listen to Lin Ling or Emperor Qing's orders. However, they all had a feeling that Lin Ling would do what he said. The army continued to move forward. The 6 camps separated from Lin Ling, Sakura, and the rest went to the Yulin market. Along the way, Lin Ling was still talking and laughing with Sakura and the rest. It was as if he didn't care about what happened just now. This strong mentality made falling flowers, flowing water, and the rest admire him. However, Lin Ling knew that it would be difficult for the sovereign marquis to capture Queen Qianji. She definitely had a trump card that could save her life. Of course, Lin Ling wasn't sure how long this trump card could last. The only thing he could do was to surpass the sovereign marquis in the shortest time possible. Moreover, The reason why the sovereign marquis gave up on Lin Ling and went after Queen Qianji was because of the space-time divine steel. The sovereign marquis might have thought that the space-time divine steel was with Queen Qianji. After returning to the sacred rainforest, Lin Ling started to cultivate. His main goal was to refine the corpse horror of the realm-devouring beast. Have you heard? Lin Ling went to Tating Commandery and blackmailed them. Who is Lin Ling? How can he be so arrogant? He is a genius who challenged the Thunder Mansion. He is a monster from the Resplendent Academy and is currently ranked 30th on the Heavenly Crossing list. TSK, although he is strong, he is too arrogant. In Qingzhou, many forces have good relations with the two commanderies. If they meet Lin Ling, they will definitely avenge the two commanderies. That's right. In terms of status, the two commanderies don't dare to offend Lin Ling. However, the first generation of the three academies can. The Great Qing dynasty won't object to this. Lin Ling has become a thorn in their side. Chapter 2679. Transin. After all, it was not a small matter to lead an army to besiege two commanderies. This could affect the whole situation. The top leaders of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty's Five-Ring City had all heard of Lin Ling's name. Of course, what surprised them was that the Great Azure Divine Dynasty actually chose to acquiesce to Lin Ling's attack on the two commanderies. This made many people unable to understand the Great Azure Divine Dynasty's intentions. Of course, it didn't take long for another piece of news to spread. Lin Ling fought against the Grim Reaper and returned in a sorry state. If not for the Marquis of Sovereign Justice's intervention, Lin Ling would have been killed by the Grim Reaper. This news was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples and once again caused a sensation in Qingzhou. The Grim Reaper was one of the strongest people in the Tianyue rankings. Lin Ling, this rash young man, actually overestimated himself and challenged him? He was really lucky. If not for the Marquis of Sovereign Justice's benevolence, he would have been killed. Everyone believed this piece of news because they knew that Lin Ling was indeed not the Grim Reaper's opponent. They even secretly mocked Lin Ling, saying that he couldn't see through himself and was simply asking for humiliation. I think this Lin Ling is just SOSO. The proudest thing in his life was killing his way into the Four-Ring City and besieging two commanderies. His life will definitely be bleak after this. That's right. Big ups and big downs. Previously, he had a big rise and now he has a big fall. I'm afraid he will decline forever. Some people who wanted to see the world fail gloated at this moment. The news also spread to the Yulin market. However, what surprised people was that the Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword and the others remained indifferent and didn't even bother to mention it. This made many people think that Lin Ling had a guilty conscience. In fact, no one knew that the Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword and the others were too lazy to explain. After all, Lin Ling was actually the winner of that battle. After all, Lin Ling was a rising star, and his cultivation realm was lower. However, at least he injured the Grim Reaper. Moreover, although Lin Ling didn't win, the Grim Reaper didn't win either. It was a draw. How could there be a defeat? This mysterious young man called the Grim Reaper was really thick-skinned to spread such a rumor. Sir Lin Ling will definitely Tianyue rankings. When that time comes, those idiots spreading the rumor, in the end, they will be slapped in the end. The Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword and the Chess Boy secretly. If he didn't explode in the Grim Reaper, then he would die. They knew Sir Lin Li Brother Ling. Queen Qianji wants to avenge her entire race. That's why she doesn't want you to interfere. In the Yulin market, Yu looked at Lin Ling obediently and said, "Only by personally taking revenge for the extermination of our clan can we face our dead relatives." Shenyuan Gub was also very understanding. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled and nodded. "I know." Then he looked at his two wives seriously. However, if she left personally and fought with the sovereign marquis, Lin Ling would not stop her. However, she was forced to leave in front of me. Lin Ling, don't like this feeling, and I don't like to owe people favors. I will return this favor to her. Hearing Lin Ling's firm words, Yu and the other wives smiled. This was their man. He dared to take responsibility for his actions, and was magnanimous. Moreover, through their conversation with Lin Ling, they knew that although Queen Qianji was weaker than the sovereign marquis, because of her bloodline, she also had a trump card. Even if she couldn't kill the sovereign marquis, she could make him suffer. All right, it's time for me to cultivate. Lin Ling said to his two wives. Not long ago, he killed Lei Tianlan. At that time, he was ranked 30th on the Tianhua list. Now, his main goal was to clear the list and become the strongest generation. Fortunately, he had obtained a large amount of cultivation resources. Realm-devouring beast corpse horror. Lin Ling sat down cross-legged. With a wave of his right hand, a piece of rock flew out from his ring. The rock was mottled and extremely hard. It didn't seem to have any spiritual energy. Of course, this was just an illusion. Ashura sword formation. The ancient sword behind Lin Ling floated up, and 108 swords shot towards the rock. However, the rock was as hard as iron. After the swords landed, only a few sparks appeared. Just a piece of flesh is already so hard. This realm-devouring beast corpse horror is really impressive. Lin Ling was shocked. He formed a barrier with both hands and sealed the surroundings, preventing the Ashura sword formation's sword heart from affecting the market. Then he started to cut the rock bit by bit. His sword formation was extremely impressive. It could defend and attack autonomously, and it had 2 sword hearts. I have to speed up. Lin Ling wasn't satisfied with the slow cutting. He started to understand the Ashura sword formation, and he swallowed the small pieces of flesh that he cut out. As time passed, Lin Ling's physical strength became stronger and stronger. Physical body cultivation was extremely rare in Jiuzhou, let alone Qingzhou. Lin Ling was one of the founders and had walked the furthest in this field. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Ling's physical body strength reached 20,000 universe power. As his physical strength increased, Lin Ling's sword Dao also increased accordingly. Unfortunately, his ultimate sword Dao still hadn't reached the next level, the realm of Dao. However, among the 108 swords of the Ashura sword formation, the second sword heart was born. In fact, if it wasn't for the short time, Lin Ling would have been able to give birth to the second sword heart. Now he had 3 sword heart swords. 2 of them were comprehended by himself, and one of them was the tyrannical Song sword. The chaotic power that it originally had was as much as 200 universe powers. The 3 sword hearts cut the realm-devouring beast corpse horror, and the speed was obviously much faster. The first piece of flesh was completely cut out. Lin Ling took out the second piece of corpse horror and continued to cut. He had as many corpse horror as a city wall, and it was enough for him to improve his physical strength. Bang, bang, bang. As he continued to devour, Lin Ling's body accumulated a huge amount of realm-devouring beast's essence. His entire body swelled up like a fatty. Also, Lin Ling's life was in danger. If he couldn't refine the essence, Lin Ling would definitely explode. Even Lin Ling couldn't react in time. However, one's prosperity was followed by another. Therefore, Lin Ling could only continue to devour the flesh. It was a race with the Hell God. What's happening? Why do I feel like my heart is beating so fast? Yeah, I have the same feeling too. In the market, Luo Hua, flowing water, and the others all had a bad feeling. And that aura was the realm-devouring beast's aura. Moreover, as the days passed, not only the market but also the martial artists who entered the street had the same feeling. They felt that there seemed to be some kind of divine beast hiding in the area. Boom. Finally, one day, the market exploded. A bottomless hole appeared in the vast market, and a terrifying aura emanated from the hole from time to time. This made Yu and the others extremely worried. However, they didn't dare to go near the deep hole for fear of interrupting Lin Ling's cultivation. Chapter 2680. Lin Ling came out of seclusion. My lord's cultivation is the best I've ever seen. Falling Flowers' flowing water sword was a knowledgeable person, and even he felt that his horizons had been broadened. Hee, is second brother going to break out of the womb? Only Sakura smiled meaningfully, and then everyone left quietly. Sakura bid farewell to Yu and the rest, saying that he would wait for Lin Ling's arrival in Five Ring City. Yu and the rest nodded. They even felt that after their big brother Sakura experienced the Sovereign Marquis, he seemed to want to become stronger. Time passed quietly like this, and unknowingly, 3 years had passed. It seemed like a long 3 years, but to a martial artist, it was very short, like the blink of an eye. In these 3 years, Yu and the rest's strength had increased greatly. Of course, the geniuses of the 3 academies were the same, and many monstrous geniuses were born. These monstrous geniuses were like Lin Ling, appearing out of nowhere and shocking the 3 academies. Lin Ling seemed to be still in a deep sleep, and no one saw that under the ground, the mysterious womb was lying there quietly, revealing a mysterious aura. Moreover, this womb was emitting a magical fragrance. In the womb, it was as if the universe was circulating, and a naked young man was sitting there cross-legged. His slender eyelashes fluttered slightly, as if he was meditating on something. Finally, one day, the womb began to wither, and all the essence disappeared. A handsome young man walked out. His skin was as white as jade, and his facial features were handsome. This devouring process is really dangerous. If not for my strong physical body, which has devoured the blood of the fish demon, the blood of the silver moon supreme beast, and the martial god fruit, as well as the refinement of the fire of time and the power of faith, I'm afraid I would have failed this time. The young man muttered to himself, revealing a clean smile. Of course, he was Lin Ling. One had to know that when he was in the rainforest's sacred ground, Lin Ling began to cultivate his physical body and had already laid a solid foundation. Now that he had devoured the realm-swallowing beast, his physical body had reached a new level. Of course, the reason why he was able to devour successfully was because of the Chaos Divine Formula. Because without the Chaos Divine Formula, Lin Ling would have exploded from the essence. Divine Body, Court of the Gods. Lin Ling shouted in a low voice. Rumble. Under the ground, a terrifying event occurred. Hundreds of demons crossed over, and divine beasts roared. There was a fish demon king, a silver moon lion king, a fierce tiger, and an azure dragon. Finally, a huge mouth appeared in the middle of all the divine beasts, as if it wanted to devour the heaven and earth. Court of the Gods. Divine bodies unique. This meant that Lin Ling's godfiend body had reached the divine body level. 100,000 universe power of the universe. Lin Ling extended his right hand and clenched it into a fist. Rumble. A terrifying thing happened, because he only clenched his fist, but the entire ground continued to shake. A certain street in Second Ring City cracked open, causing countless martial artists to be horrified. It was because this was the martial god realm's Azure province, a place known as the Divine Land. However, even the Divine Land had split apart. This was too terrifying. No one knew how strong the power of 100,000 universes was. It could be said that Lin Ling alone represented the power of 10 realms. In the blink of an eye, 10 worlds had collapsed. Not only has my body improved, but my second Dantian has reached the second level of the true God realm. Of course, the most important thing is that my third Dantian is about to be born. Lin Ling's eyes flashed with excitement. The Chaos Divine Formula was a triple cultivator of essence, energy, and spirit. His god-devil body had finally caught up to the other two areas. In terms of talent, it was even higher than the space-time flame. Lin Ling sat down cross-legged and began to form his third Dantian. In the past, Li Xiaoyao had already formed 3 Dantians, so this time, his cultivation was a walk in the park. At the same time, Lin Ling's Dantian began to change. A new world was born, and it was like a black hole that constantly absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Next to the black hole were 2 more Dantians. Not good. Shit. At this moment, Lin Ling's expression changed drastically. He had forgotten that the birth of the third Dantian required a huge amount of spiritual energy. I wonder if the divinity crystals I've accumulated this time are enough to open my third Dantian. Yes. Lin Ling took out all the divinity crystals, and even all the treasures he had on him. For example, the human ring pill. All the treasures Lin Ling had obtained over the years were all used to fill his third Dantian. However, it was still not enough. The black hole became bigger and bigger, but due to the lack of spiritual energy, it finally stopped spinning. Sigh. Lin Ling shook his head gloomily. He had been too excited and had forgotten about this. It seemed that he had to find more divinity crystals. After shaking his head, Lin Ling temporarily gave up on opening his third Dantian. Then he jumped out of the deep hole and came out. He realized that the hole was surrounded by plants, and the fragrance of flowers filled the air. Lin Ling could not help but smile. This must be Yu's doing. Everyone must be waiting for him. Not bad. Their strengths have all increased. Lin Ling released his soul force. Sensing everyone's strength increase, he could not help smiling in satisfaction. It seems that my cultivation time is not short. Lin Ling stepped out and walked towards the market square. Presently, the business of the rainforest market was getting better and better. Many were regular customers. After trying the treasures sold in the rainforest market, they also came here to buy things again and again. The rainforest market will close down sooner or later. Of course, There were also people who were taking pleasure in the misfortune of others. This brother, you actually still went to the rainforest market to buy treasures? If you provoke those big shots and make a move against you, you'll be out of luck. After all, this shopkeeper provoked many big shots. Get lost for me. In these 3 years, when has the rainforest market not been in rumors? But the market square is still open. Stop spreading rumors for me. Don't listen to the advice of your elders, and you'll suffer losses soon. Outside the market square, there were also people who constantly slandered the shopkeeper. But regular customers were regular customers. They did not care about these slanderous words and directly refuted them. This was because the reputation of the rainforest market was accumulated bit by bit. Once it was accumulated, it was not easy to destroy it. Towards the shopkeeper of the market square, many people had a deep confidence in him. Even Lin Ling was stunned by this scene. Did he cultivate for 3 years this time? Moreover, just what had happened in these 3 years? With curiosity, Lin Ling appeared in front of everyone. My lord, you've left seclusion? Master, falling flowers, flowing water sword, ancient martial god rhyme, and the others all cried out in alarm. Hee, Lin Ling, you finally appeared. The 9 spirits of heaven and the others couldn't help but reveal excited smiles. Although there were many rumors going around, in their hearts, Lin Ling was still their boss, and he was still omnipotent. Looking at his brothers and friends, Lin Ling was in a good mood. He swept his eyes around and nodded in appreciation. Not bad, you've all reached the late World King realm. Lord Lin Ling, you don't seem to have increased your boundary. The chess boy sized up Lin Ling. If he didn't remember wrong, Lin Ling was at the 2nd level of true divinity realm before he went into seclusion, and after he left, he was still at the 2nd level of true divinity. Chapter 2681. I didn't change, it's you who changed. Haha. Lin Ling coming out of seclusion had undoubtedly given everyone a backbone. Brother Ling. Yu and the rest held Lin Ling's hand. In these 3 years, they had been waiting for Lin Ling. Of course, their strength had also increased greatly, reaching the peak of the 1st stage of True God Realm. After that, they knew that Lin Ling was puzzled and told him what had happened during this period of time. In these 3 years, a large number of geniuses had appeared. Moreover, the matter of the Grim Reaper challenging Lin Ling was still known to everyone. Unfortunately, in these 3 years, Lin Ling had disappeared without a trace, so everyone thought that Lin Ling was afraid. However, this was normal. After all, Lin Ling's growth time was too short and his foundation was not solid. Now that he had revealed his true colors, this was something that was inevitable. Therefore, Lin Ling's name was gradually forgotten by everyone, and in turn, it was a form of mockery. After all, Green Province did not have much, but there were many geniuses. Every year, the 10,000 worlds would provide fresh blood, making Green Province full of vitality and geniuses. So it's like this. Lin Ling nodded his head in realization. Everyone kicks a man who is down. This was an unchanging law no matter where it was placed. This is too much. In the past, when Sir Lin Ling became the champion of the Pride Tournament, Resplendent Academy was proud of Sir. But now, the Academy only left Sir with a disdainful reputation. That's right, the most important thing is that those fellows are not strong and only know how to fan the flames. They can't do anything great. Speaking of this, falling flowers, flowing water, and the rest felt indignant for Lin Ling. Ignore them. However, Lin Ling smiled and shook his head. That kind of indifferent aura stunned falling flowers, flowing water, and the rest. They then realized that although Lin Ling did not break through, his aura was obviously different. It was a kind of grand wind, as majestic as the universe's mythical beast. How could a swallow know the ambition of a swan? The same thought rose in their minds. Dogs bite people. Don't tell me I have to bite back the dogs? Besides, there are so many dogs, I really don't have the time to bite them all back. Lin Ling really didn't care because his target was the Sovereign Marquis. Therefore, he didn't even care about the Grim Reaper, let alone those villains who were fanning the flames. Let's not talk about this anymore. Currently, what do I need to do to ascend the Heavenly Crossing list? Lin Ling looked at Blossoming Flowing Swords group and said, to be honest, although he was a member of the Resplendent Academy, he was not as familiar with the Academy as Blossoming Flowing Swords group. If you want to charge into the Sky Crossing rankings, you need to get the approval of the Academy's elders. Hearing this, Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword, and the others were delighted. Was Lin Ling going to clear the rankings? All right, let's go look for Vice Principal Gong then. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Becoming the strongest of his generation was also his primary goal. We'll go with you. Everyone was filled with anticipation as they followed Lin Ling to Resplendent Academy. Along the way, Lin Ling saw many unfamiliar faces. They must be the new geniuses of the academy. Isn't that the top 3 of the second generation, Blossoming Flowing Sword? They haven't appeared in Resplendent Academy for a long time. Che, what top 3 of the second generation? He's just an undeserved reputation. I only need a year to surpass him. Arriving at Resplendent Academy, voices filled with battle intent rang out. Blossoming Flowing Sword and the others seemed to be extremely famous in Resplendent Academy, which made Lin Ling somewhat stunned. As for Blossoming Flowing Sword and the others, they snorted coldly. In the past, they were even more famous and people had to salute them when they saw them. However, ever since Lord Lin Ling went into seclusion, those juniors who were respectful in the past had a 180-degree change in attitude. Of course, they didn't enjoy the feeling of worship, but they didn't like the change in attitude. Those 2 girls aren't bad. Don't look down on them, they're from the first generation. Many youths stared at Yu and the others and licked their lips. If they hadn't heard the 2 words first generation, they would have already tried to flirt with them. However, when they saw Yu and Xian Yuan-ge holding Lin Ling's hand, they immediately became jealous. Who's that guy? He has a good face, but his strength seems to be pretty good. Look at his arrogant face. The more I look at him, the more annoyed I feel. He's just relying on the fact that he has more cultivation time than us. In another year, I'll definitely surpass him. Many youths said with high fighting spirit. None of those who could enter Resplendent Academy were pushovers. He's Lin Ling, someone you can't afford to provoke. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly rang out, causing the surrounding youths to be stunned. Lin Ling? Naturally, they had heard of this name before. He's just a coward. Soon, a disdainful voice rang out. No matter how cowardly he is, he's still better than trash like you who only knows how to talk nonsense. However, the same voice rang out again, mixed with disdain. You're looking for death. Many youths looked at the person who spoke. They originally wanted to teach him a lesson, but they stopped themselves and bowed respectfully. Greetings, senior brother Genji. The person who came was the former strongest second-generation Genji. The current him was no longer a second generation. He had stepped into the first generation. Genji didn't even bother with his junior brother's bow. Instead, he looked indifferently at the approaching Lin Ling. It had been 3 years. A full 3 years, Lin Ling had finally appeared. In these 3 years, he had worked hard to surpass Lin Ling. Even when everyone thought that Lin Ling had declined, he thought that Lin Ling wasn't that simple. Even so, he had the confidence to surpass Lin Ling. Especially now, his confidence was even stronger. You're finally back. Genji walked out and walked towards Lin Ling. Lin Ling had already noticed him, smiling and nodding. You've changed. In the past, you were arrogant, wild and unrestrained, fearless and fearless. You were the most respected genius of the second generation. But now, facing our junior brother's disdain, you no longer have the strength to refute. Genji said coldly. He knew that Lin Ling must have heard their harsh words, but Lin Ling actually didn't retaliate. This wasn't Lin Ling's character. Lin Ling's character was like a sword. He definitely wouldn't be such a coward. I didn't change, the one who changed is you. Lin Ling was still smiling. After greeting them, he brought Yu and the rest forward. This stunned Genji. He almost wanted to challenge Lin Ling, but after seeing Lin Ling's smile, for some reason, he didn't dare. That smile made him feel that Lin Ling was like the clouds in the sky. He could only be seen from afar, but could never be touched. Impossible, definitely impossible. I've already entered the true God realm. I can't still be afraid of him. Genji kept shaking his head. He felt that he wasn't living up to expectations. He wanted to shout, to let Lin Ling fight. But subconsciously, a voice of rejection sounded, making him lose the will to fight. You've changed. In the past, your goal was to reach the peak of martial arts. Now your goal is to defeat me. Your vision has become narrow. Yes. At this time, Lin Ling's voice floated into his ears, causing his body to tremble. That's right, he didn't know when, but he had actually set his goal to surpass Lin Ling. His lofty ambitions of the past were now gone with the wind. Why didn't you retaliate? Chapter 2682. Heisher's Martial Dao. Because not interested. The nonchalant voice once again floated into Genji's ears, causing him to smile bitterly. I will never be able to catch up to him. Although there were rumors that Lin Ling had declined, he suddenly had a feeling that not only did Lin Ling not decline, but instead rose up crazily. Because only those with greater foresight would not care about the words of ants. This was like a piece of unpolished jade buried in a pile of rocks. One day, it would shine brightly. This resplendent academy seems to be getting more and more people. Lin Ling and the rest continued to move forward. Lin Ling's gaze swept the surroundings as he spoke indifferently. While the surroundings were filled with discussions, many people had looks of disdain. Unfortunately, Lin Ling did not care at all, as if nothing had happened. That's right, I heard that today is also the day of the exchange between the 3 academies. So many geniuses came back. Qitong said. Exchange? Lin Ling's eyes lit up. That means that the strongest of the first generation came back to give a lecture, imparting some martial Dao experience to the younger generation, so that they would not take the wrong path. Yu curled her lips as she spoke, her tone filled with disdain. Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed in disdain. Giving a lecture? These first generations sure have the time. True martial Dao experience, unless it was passed down or gained by oneself, it could not be imparted. Take Lin Ling for example. He had plenty of martial Dao experience, but he had never imparted it to Yu and the rest, only giving pointers. Imparting and giving pointers, these 2 words were like heaven and earth. The reason was that everyone had their own path of martial Dao. Imparting from others would only make them look different. The so-called martial Dao, the so-called strength, that is talent. Those with talent are dragons, those without talent are insects. Right at this moment, a vast square appeared in front of them, and an indifferent voice drifted out like thunder. There stood a tall and handsome young man. His hands were clasped behind his back, and he looked at the entire square like a great expert. This person was the first generation, and he was the first generation of Resplendent Academy. Around the plaza stood a large number of people, looking at the youth with admiration. Senior Brothers Wu is so handsome. He is ranked 29th in the sky-surpassing realm, cultivating for 1,500 years, 4th level of true God realm. Tisk tsk, that's amazing. That's nothing. I heard that he even has a divine body. Voices of adoration could be heard from time to time. Some of the girls' hearts were beating wildly. They wanted nothing more than to get to know Senior Brothers Wu and walk around the universe hand in hand. Unfortunately, that was just wishful thinking. How could an ordinary woman get close to Senior Brothers Wu? They could only watch from afar. Senior Brother, I don't agree with what you said. But at that moment, a solemn voice suddenly sounded. Everyone looked over and saw that it was a short and stocky young man. He had dark skin and looked very ordinary. What nonsense are you talking about? Instantly, a large number of reprimands rang out. That unprepossessing fellow actually dared to question Senior Brothers Wu? So it's He Shi from the Heavenly Saint Institute. TSK, do you think you're qualified to comment on Senior Brothers Wu's words? Someone recognized the short and stout youth and laughed disdainfully. Today was the day for the exchange of geniuses between the 3 academies, so the people from the Heavenly Saint Academy were also present. Scram, trash from the Heavenly Saint Academy. Trash, don't talk nonsense if you don't know anything. Some of the geniuses from the Resplendent Academy cursed. Even if Zhuoyu wasn't their idol, it wasn't up to the people from the Heavenly Saint Academy to comment on him. I'm just speaking the truth. He Shi said indifferently. He was as calm as ever. He Shi, I've heard of your name. In the Proud World competition, you were a dark horse and almost became the strongest 2nd generation. Unfortunately, you lost to Lin Ling in the end. However, I didn't expect you to become a 1st generation in such a short period of time. You're quite capable. At that moment, Zhuoyu looked at He Shi and said calmly, even though you fought against Lin Ling and became famous in the Proud World competition, that's all there is to you. Lin Ling is also all there is to him. Don't be a frog in a well. I'm not, I'm just speaking the truth. He Shi said bluntly. Of course, I agree with Senior Brothers Wu's words. However, Senior Brothers Wu's words are too full of himself. Talent isn't everything on the path of martial arts. Some people sharpen their sword for 10 years, and their martial arts are strong. Some people use their weapons to sweep through the crowd. Some people have strange divine abilities, such as Senior Brother Meng Lu. Therefore, I don't think talent is everything on the path of martial arts. Let's not talk about the distant ones. Take our senior brother, he from the Heavenly Saint Academy, for example. He cultivated a fist art for 1,000 years and used it to reach 80% completion. He also defeated countless geniuses and became the 12th on the Tianyu rankings. As soon as his words fell, the square fell into silence. Everyone felt that what he said made sense. There were no absolutes on the path of martial arts. Bullshit. At that moment, Zhuyu shouted coldly. You're just saying self-comforting words because you don't have a strong talent? On the path of martial arts, talent is everything. Those with strong talent can unseal the true God martial spirit. The first seal, the second seal, and even the third seal can increase a huge amount of boundary energy. Do you know this? You're just a piece of trash. I know. He Shi immediately retorted. But I've heard that a strong 7th grade boundary origin martial skill can fight against those who have unsealed it. Therefore, those without talent are not necessarily trash. Hee, I like stubborn people like you the most. Hearing He Shi's words, Zhuyu laughed. He took a step forward and rushed toward He Shi. Along the way, he unleashed his talent, causing hundreds of flowers to bloom and chord of gods to resonate. A palm seemed to fly among the flowers and arrived in front of He Shi at the speed of 4 realms. The palm landed on his chest, causing him to spit out blood and fly backward. Although He Shi was from the first generation, he was obviously not as strong as those who were ranked 30th and above. Facts have proven that what you said is bullshit. You're trash. After defeating He Shi with 1 palm, Zhuyu laughed disdainfully. What a dazzling move. The crowd exclaimed. At first, they agreed with He Shi's words. But now, they believed Zhuyu even more. Because strength proved everything. Get lost, trash. Trash! Many people scolded He Shi. Bang! He Shi fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with unwillingness, but his face was extremely gloomy. He couldn't even block a single move. The crowd's mockery and sarcasm made him feel like his heart was dead. He didn't mean to disrupt Zhuyu. He just wanted to stand up for his own martial path. He wanted to discuss martial path with Zhuyu, but unfortunately, he wasn't qualified. You're not wrong. Just as the crowd was mocking He Shi, an arm stretched out from the void and pulled He Shi up. He Shi looked up and said excitedly, Lin Ling? The person who came was Lin Ling. He nodded at He Shi with a bright smile. Back in the Pride tournament, Blackstone had left a good impression on him. Now, Blackstone had relied on his own willpower to enter the ranks of the first generation. He was indeed a man of great willpower, much better than those people in the square and Yiyun. Chapter 2683. Erupting in silence. Thank you, I understand. All the doubts in Haystone's heart were cleared. He believed in Lin Ling's words, and he was even more resolute in his own martial Tao. I also believe that you will become stronger. Lin Ling patted He Shi's shoulder and walked forward. Who is that person? Lin Ling? Oh. It's that freak Lin Ling whose name shook the 3 great academies 3 years ago, and who was deemed as the fastest cultivator in history. But now he seems to be down and out. Perhaps he has done something that angers both man and God. What's funny is that he actually has the mood to console others. He doesn't even look at himself. Many people recognized Lin Ling, including Zhuyu. He smiled faintly and said, Junior brother Lin Ling, do you have any objections to what I said? Lin Ling nodded and said, What do you think? Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't pay any attention to him. He continued to move forward with Yu and the others. Sure enough, he's the same as He Shi, a frog at the bottom of a well. He thought that the proud world competition was a little amazing, so his self-confidence swelled to the point that he couldn't recognize himself. Everyone looked clearly. This is the reason why his foundation is not solid. Of course, not having a strong talent is also one of the reasons why he fell from the spiritual pedestal stage. Seeing that Lin Ling didn't say anything, Zhuyu immediately spoke to everyone in the tone of a senior. Brother Zhuo, we understand. We will not learn from Lin Ling. Many people immediately replied, with Lin Ling's talent, he will never be able to catch up with Brother Zhuo. Zhuiyu's words were like the command of God, making the crowd believe him without a doubt. Zhuyu couldn't help but smile when he sensed that he was the moon surrounded by the stars. He looked at the few people around Lin Ling and said, The same goes for all of you. Don't get too close to him. Otherwise, you'll end up like this for the rest of your life. If you want to achieve martial arts, you'd better walk on my side. The reason why he held this forum today was because the academy would reward him. The more disciples who believed in him, the more rewards he would receive. Therefore, when he saw Yu and the others beside Lin Ling, he subconsciously said, "Of course, even if Yu and the rest didn't come, he wouldn't mind." After all, it didn't matter if there were a few more people or a few fewer people. As for Lin Ling, naturally, he didn't care at all. Not to mention anything else. Just the fact that Lin Ling didn't dare to talk back proved everything. But unexpectedly, his last sentence made Lin Ling finally stop in his tracks. Furthermore, a chuckle could be heard. "They are my wives. You're openly recruiting them?" Zui was stunned. Previously, when he was disdainful of Lin Ling didn't dare to talk back. But now, Lin Ling actually questioned him because of a casual sentence. "I'm not recruiting them. I'm just letting them know what martial arts are." Zui said faintly, "She's my wife. I'll guide her myself. I don't need anyone else's nonsense." Lin Ling also spoke up. His tone made Zui a little dissatisfied. "Why do you have to hold up other people's martial arts? Don't tell me you want them to decline like you? Being pointed at by others and unable to raise their heads?" They've never been unable to raise their heads. On the contrary, they're proud of me. And you don't have to talk like an expert. Your martial arts doesn't mean that everyone recognizes it. The reason why they didn't fight back is because they don't want to. Lin Ling began to give tit for tat. He didn't care about the mocking of the weak, but the weak couldn't have any ideas about his wife. Because this was his reverse scale. "You're called Zui, right? May I ask what's your ranking?" Lin Ling asked again. Zui sneered. "Why do you ask? My ranking isn't something that a junior like you can understand. All right, if your ranking is below 30, then you can treat me like air. Ignore my previous words and continue to fool these people." Lin Ling also smiled. "If your ranking is below 30, then I'm sorry, but I'm very interested." "Fool." Zuiyu's face turned even uglier. Lin Ling actually said that he was fooling everyone? "I'm sorry, senior brother. I'm ranked 28. Zuiyu also raised his voice. He wanted to let Lin Ling, this trash, know what was called the Heavenly Crossing list. 28? Senior brother Zua, aren't you ranked 29? You've risen again, that's amazing. Everyone instantly exclaimed. One must know that to advance one place on the Heavenly Crossing list was harder than ascending to the heavens. It was also because this was the battle stage of the strongest generation of the 3 great academies. Everyone was frantically increasing their strength to maintain their ranking. 28? You've successfully attracted my interest. Hearing this, Lin Ling's smile became even wider. His blue and white robe also fluttered. At this moment, he was like a sword that had been unsheathed. Brother Ling. Sensing the soaring aura, Yu and the rest were delighted. They knew that this man had finally awakened. Previously, Lin Ling seemed to be in a deep sleep. He was only interested in the sovereign marquis. Now the lion has awakened. Lin Ling, is he finally going to make a move? This lazy man is really lazy. At this moment, at the side of the square, a youth appeared. At this moment, he was excitedly clenching his fists. He was Gaji. As for He Shi, he revealed an excited smile, and his body was trembling. Lin Ling, after being silent for a long time, finally exploded. He was also looking forward to Lin Ling proving everything. I agreed with He Shi's words before. In the martial Tao, there is no absolute. What do you think? At this moment, Lin Ling stepped forward. His long hair fluttered, causing the geniuses who were originally disdainful to fall silent. It had to be said that the current Lin Ling was very handsome, causing them to be in a daze. Are you refuting me? Zuiyu snorted coldly. I'm not refuting you. I'm telling you that you are not qualified to discuss martial arts. Lin Ling stretched out his right hand and opened his palm. Look at this palm. When it opens, it controls the world. When it closes, it can sweep away the wind and clouds. Today, I will teach you a lesson. I will show you what the proof of 100 schools of thought is. Bang! Lin Ling stomped heavily on the square, causing the ground to crack, shocking everyone. He shot towards Zuiyu like a cannonball. His fist was behind him, gathering strength. He did not use any realm essence energy. Let me teach you another lesson. Talent is not everything. His fist was like an arrow, shooting towards Zuiyu. 100-flower god. Seeing this, Zuiyu sneered. He did not expect Lin Ling to take the initiative to attack. He did not care about a mere Lin Ling. On the other hand, the crowd opened their mouths in shock. Lin Ling was courting death. Not to mention that Lin Ling had declined. Even if he was still outstanding, he was only ranked 30th in the first generation. Zuiyu was ranked 28th. It seemed like there was a difference of 2 ranks, but the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. What's more, Lin Ling didn't use any of his unique skills and only used ordinary fists. He even used his fist to teach Suyu a lesson? Crazy. Court of Gods. A magical scene of hundreds of flowers blooming appeared around Zuyu. Divine kings wearing colorful clothes appeared one after another, as if they were giving him their blessings. At the same time, a blurry lady appeared behind him. She seemed to be the master of flowers. She stretched out her hand gently. A terrifying realm essence energy erupted. Her divine body and the strength of a level 4 true god were not something an ordinary person could withstand. Boom! Lin Ling's fist finally arrived. It was like a meteor crashing on the ground. The moment it landed, the crowd realized how terrifying it was. The ground of the square cracked and countless tiles were sent flying thousands of miles high. The scene was shocking. Ka. Chapter 2684. Preemptive Strike. Boom. A terrifying punch landed on Zuyu's face and sent him flying like a cannonball, penetrating through countless buildings and disappearing into the distance. Amidst the dust, Lin Ling's figure was faintly discernible, shocking the entire resplendent academy. One punch. The 28th on the Heaven Surpass ranking was sent flying. Previously, Zuyu had said that those with talent were true dragons and those without talent were trash. But now, he was sent flying by a simple punch. This meant that Zuyu was wrong. In the 100 Schools of Thought contest, talent wasn't everything. Senior Brothers was divine physique and Court of Gods could shake the 10 worlds. But Lin Ling sent him flying with just his fist? How is this possible? No one was more shocked than Genji. Because he was a first generation, he was clearer than the others about the strength of the first generation. No wonder he didn't retaliate. It was because he didn't care. Perhaps only an opponent like Zuyu would interest him. Genji muttered to himself. In fact, the surrounding disciples were speechless. Thinking of how they looked down on Lin Ling, it was as if they had slapped themselves in the face. No matter what kind of genius they were, no matter how powerful they were. But Lin Ling was their senior brother in the past, and he was still their senior brother today. They thought that Lin Ling had declined, but that was just their wishful thinking. Who said that Lord Lin Ling had fallen off the stage? Get out here. Someone suddenly roared. It was Falling Flowers' flowing water sword. He wanted to see what these arrogant people had to say. The surrounding geniuses were embarrassed and lowered their heads. In the resplendent academy, strength was everything. Lin Ling had also proved everything. It also meant that Lin Ling didn't care about their mockery and ridicule. They were just a bunch of sparrows squawking. Good, you dare to sneak attack me, it's my turn now. At this time, a figure shot over with a speed of 4 worlds. A halberd seemed to have shot out from time to time. Obviously, Lin Ling's punch didn't injure Zuyu. It only made him look miserable. Rumble. The divine body descended once again. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, and even time seemed to slow down a bit. And this was the might brought about by Zuyu's divine body. One had to know that in a battle between martial artists, the short span of a breath could change everything. In addition, he had clearly erupted with his full strength at this moment, and his strength had reached the peak of the 6th level of the true god realm. Not good. Seeing this, people immediately cried out in alarm. No one thought that Zuyu would suddenly make a move. He had obviously learned from Lin Ling and attacked as soon as he said so. However, his realm and talent were both higher than Lin Ling's. If he launched a sneak attack, it would definitely be very difficult for Lin Ling to block. At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He had not expected his opponent to be so tenacious. This caused his attack to be slightly slower. However, at this moment, sword shadows rushed out from behind him and turned into 108 swords. They formed a military formation to protect Lin Ling. Clang! 108 swords shot towards the halberd in a frenzy, producing ear-piercing sounds of metal colliding. Some of the weaker geniuses began to bleed from their 7 orifices. How terrifying! Lin Ling's Ashura sword formation is actually so powerful. I'm also a swordsman and have also cultivated the Ashura sword formation. Compared to Lin Ling's sword, I'm far inferior. Ironically, I was the first to mock Lin Ling previously. Everyone's faces turned red. Some swordsmen were so ashamed that they wanted to hide their faces. Because they had also cultivated the Ashura sword formation, they had thought that they had surpassed Lin Ling. However, who knew that it was just wishful thinking? Lin Ling, is this all you've got? At this moment, Zuyu's body appeared. He held the halberd in one hand and shattered the void. The pressure was extremely great. The terrifying thing was that the pressure alone was enough to shatter a world. Moreover, although the Ashura sword formation had blocked the halberd, it was only a matter of time before it was swept away. This was because Zuyu's talent had slowed down the speed of the sword formation. It was as though time had been frozen. I've said that talent is everything. Noticing this, Zuyu sneered. He thought that Lin Ling had only ambushed him previously. Otherwise, Lin Ling would not have the right to be so arrogant. I still don't think so. However, at this moment, Lin Ling was also staring at him. With a wave of his hand, an ancient sword shot down from the sky. He had actually pulled out a sword from the Ashura sword formation. Moreover, with the ancient sword in his hand, he slashed at Zuyu along with the Ashura sword formation. Haha, this speed is too slow. Junior brother Lin Ling, did you not eat? Under the influence of Zuyu's divine body, Lin Ling's speed was very slow. Zuyu's eyes were filled with disdain. With such a slow speed, the power of the sword must be limited. Remember, this sword is the Ashura sword formation. It is also a martial art from the primeval world. Lin Ling ignored him. He slashed out with the sword, as though he was going to cut the sky. However, in the eyes of the crowd, this sword was indeed slow. It was so slow that many of the geniuses could easily dodge or even block it. This is normal. After all, senior brother Lin Ling was the last to attack. Zuyu suppressed him first. Someone said solemnly. It was He Shi. As expected of an experienced martial artist, he was able to see through everything. If that's the case, senior brother Lin Ling counterattacked in a hurry. No wonder the power of his sword was so weak. The geniuses around them were not weaklings. They had also figured out everything. For example, Lin Ling had attacked first, which was why senior brother Zuyu was swept away. Now that senior brother Zuyu had attacked first, it would be difficult for Lin Ling to block it. Rumble. However, as soon as they finished speaking, Lin Ling's sword slashed down, accompanied by the Ashura sword formation. Clang! Zuyu's long halberd cracked instantly. Silence. The crowd was dead silent. They clearly saw that Lin Ling's sword was not powerful. However, with one slash, senior brother Zuyu's long halberd was broken? Of course, the most shocked person was Zuyu. His eyes were wide open. Lin Ling was only a level 2 true god. How could his sword be so powerful? Swoosh. As the sword slashed down, blood spurted out. If it was not for Zuyu's strong divine body that could control time, that slash would have split him into two. Even so, his right arm was chopped off. He retreated frantically and spat out mouthfuls of blood. My right arm. How could I lose to a junior brother like you? He shook his head as he retreated, as though he could not believe what he had seen. One should know that he had used 300 years to climb from the 29th place to the 28th place on the heavenly transcendence list. However, he had just stabilized his position and was overtaken in the next moment. And Lin Ling seemed to have only used 3 years. At the thought of this, his heart was filled with jealousy and resentment. There was even a strong murderous intent. This was because Lin Ling had taken away his honor. This is crazy. Previously, Lin Ling attacked first and sent senior brother Zuyu flying. Then, senior brother Zuyu attacked first as well. However, he could not touch Lin Ling at all. Instead, his arm was chopped off. Everyone's heart trembled violently. At this point, it was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. Bang! At this moment, the dull sound of footsteps continued to resound. Chapter 2685. A mouth that devoured everything. Because he noticed the killing intent in Zuyu's eyes. Lin Ling would not show mercy to those who wanted to kill him, Lin Ling. Bang, bang, bang. His pace was neither fast nor slow, but it was like thunder, causing the air to explode continuously. Every step seemed to step on Zuyu's heart, causing his face to turn paler. He was still activating his god body, so he guessed that Lin Ling couldn't be fast and could only walk slowly. He had the time to escape, but if he escaped, how could he face others? Lin Ling, don't go too far. Gritting his teeth, Zuyu waved his right hand and a blood-red pill appeared. It was the Earth Ring pill. This was a pill that was even more precious than the human ring pill. Not only could it instantly recover one's world essence, it could also heal one's injuries. You forced me to do this. If you die today, you can only blame yourself for being blind. Zuyu looked at the pill reluctantly and swallowed it in the end. This medicinal pill was originally intended to be used at a critical moment. But who would have thought that facing this junior brother Lin Ling, he would also be forced to use it? His heart was also bleeding at this moment. But after the medicinal pill entered his stomach, his severed arm began to grow crazily. His muscles wriggled like worms and gradually recovered to their original state. On top of that, his boundary river had also become even larger. Using medicinal pills? Even if senior brother Zuyu won, he still lost. Seeing that scene, many people shook their heads. This was because Zuyu no longer viewed this battle as a spar, but a battle of life and death. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used the Earth Ring pill. Therefore, even if he won, it was an unfair victory. Lin Ling, your previous Jie Yuan martial art, Azura sword formation, is very powerful. Moreover, your strength seems to be very strong as well. You have indeed taught me a lesson. However, let me tell you, the truly powerful thing is talent. I want you to personally admit this truth. Zuyu shouted crazily as he sensed the boundary essence climbing higher and higher. Following his roar, the entire resplendent academy began to tremble. At the same time, more and more geniuses arrived and looked at the scene in horror. Especially after seeing Lin Ling, they were even more shocked. 3 years. They thought that Lin Ling had escaped from Qingzhou, but today they saw Lin Ling again. Furthermore, they saw Lin Ling's domineering scene. Is the final battle about to begin? Senior brother Lin Ling, you're amazing. 3 years ago, he was only ranked 30th on the sky-surpassing rankings. Now, I'm afraid he can reach 29th. 3 years, TKSK. Voices of admiration rang out one after another. The geniuses who had previously worshipped Zuyu all turned their gazes toward Lin Ling. No matter if Lin Ling won or lost, it was enough for him to be proud. Yan Ningbo blood halberd. The surrounding voices undoubtedly made Zuyu even angrier. A white goddess floated out from behind him. She was as beautiful as a flower fairy. At this moment, the mystic goddess wielded her halberd and shot towards Lin Ling like an otherworldly fairy. Clearly, with the help of the Earth Ring pill, he unleashed the strongest attack of his true god martial soul. What is a divine body? What is unsealing? A frog at the bottom of a well, like you will understand. After unleashing the otherworldly fairy, Zuyu also shot towards Lin Ling. Swoosh! What was terrifying was that wherever Zuyu's true god martial soul passed, it tore through the void, causing a black path to appear in midair. That was the chaos of the universe. What was even more terrifying was that time had stopped. The surrounding people could think, but they couldn't move. They could only be shocked by Zuyu's heaven-defying divine body. Stop! At this moment, an anxious voice suddenly rang out. A figure floated in the sky and flickered a few times before appearing in the square. It was Ancestor Dragon Granny. Zuyu, you dare violate the Academy's rules? Ancestor Dragon Granny saw Zuyu unleash his full strength and knew that he wanted to kill Lin Ling. However, Zuyu ignored her and his eyes turned even colder. Lin Ling must be killed. Otherwise, he would be surpassed in 3 years. Sir! Lin Ling! Time had been frozen. Falling flowers, flowing water, and the others could only cry out in their hearts. In fact, they had confidence in Lin Ling from the beginning. However, now that time had been frozen, even if Lin Ling had powerful strength, he couldn't unleash it. The talents of the strongest generation were heaven-defying. I've said it before. You're not qualified to discuss martial arts. However, at this moment, Lin Ling spoke. This caused everyone to be greatly shocked. Time had been frozen, but Lin Ling could still speak? Even Zuyu was secretly shocked. However, he didn't care. He thought that Lin Ling was just a flash in the pan. This was also because he had confidence in his divine body. In the past, with his divine body, he had even killed an 8th-stage true god expert. Because time had been frozen, even if the opponent had powerful realm essence, they couldn't attack. Therefore, they could only hate him. In fact, he didn't know that Lin Ling was full of disdain for his time freeze. This time freeze could only freeze people weaker than Zuyu. It couldn't be compared to the time steel. The time steel could burn space and time. That was the true time freeze. It was just that Lin Ling was still unable to activate that effect at the moment. 29. That's enough for me to unleash 70% of my strength. Lin Ling muttered to himself. An ancient aura spread out from his body. Boom, boom. Hundreds of beasts roared. The fish demon, silver lion, azure dragon, and black tortoise appeared behind Lin Ling and roared toward the sky. That terrifying aura actually caused Second Ring City to tremble. What divine body? Resonance of the gods? Ancestor Dragon Granny wanted to help Lin Ling when she saw this scene. However, she stopped in her tracks with a face full of excitement. Divine body. Lin Ling had given birth to a divine body? And it wasn't of the fire element? How many secrets did this guy hide? What had he done in the past 3 years? The geniuses who were frozen in the surroundings felt their hearts explode as their minds roared. He also has a divine body. Zui was also shocked. No wonder he had always found it strange that his divine body couldn't suppress Lin Ling's combat strength. So that was the reason. Even so, there were strong and weak divine bodies. His spatial datura physique was definitely above Lin Ling's divine body. What's the use? Die! The heavenly flying immortal was getting closer and closer to Lin Ling. The long halberd flashed coldly. However, Lin Ling still stood motionless with a cold expression on his face. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Roar! A huge mouth quietly appeared as if it had appeared out of thin air. Then, it pounced out from behind Lin Ling and swallowed the heavenly flying immortal along with the long halberd. This sudden change shocked the entire academy. What kind of divine body was this? A mouth? That was too strange. Even Zuyu's eyes widened. His true god martial soul had been swallowed? However, he quickly reacted and immediately wanted to retreat. However, he realized that he couldn't move. Time was frozen. His eyes couldn't help but stare at Lin Ling. He suddenly guessed that Lin Ling's divine body had swallowed the power of his divine body and then fed it back. Chapter 2686. The Academy's Rules. I've said that talent isn't a part of martial arts. That's why you were defeated by my sword. I've also said that you're not qualified to discuss martial arts because your divine body is like child's play in front of me. Lin Ling looked at Zuyu indifferently with disdain in his eyes. He reached out his right hand and grabbed Zuyu's neck, lifting him up. Zuyu tried to resist, but he realized that Lin Ling's right hand was too strong. His realm origin energy couldn't move it at all. This made him realize that Lin Ling didn't just rely on the Ashura sword array to cut off his right arm, but also his terrifying divine body. At this moment, he finally realized that talent wasn't the only thing that mattered on the path of martial arts. Lin Ling had opened his eyes and taught him a lesson about what it meant to be a genius who was strong in all areas. He lost. Senior brothers, you lost. Look at his face. Hee. No one was dissatisfied with senior brother Zuyu's discussion. Lin Ling was passing by, and he didn't care about senior brother Zuyu. However, senior brother Zuyu thought that he was stronger and insisted on asking Lin Ling for an answer. He even provoked Lin Ling. Now that he's defeated by Lin Ling, I'm afraid he's too ashamed to show his face. In front of senior brother Lin Ling, senior brother Zuyu really isn't qualified to discuss martial arts. He's like a clown in front of senior brother Lin Ling. People were shocked and mocking. They were shocked because Lin Ling was so strong and his mouth was so tough. It was their first time seeing him devour a true god's martial spirit. What was ironic was that Zuyu wasn't Lin Ling's opponent at all. He actually gave Lin Ling pointers. Zuyu was smashing his own foot with a rock. However, senior brother Zuyu wanted to kill Lin Ling. I'm afraid senior brother Lin Ling won't let him go. Probably. The Resplendent Academy has a rule that geniuses can't kill each other. Moreover, Zuyu is one of the strongest geniuses of his generation. That's true, but Zuyu wanted to kill senior martial brother Lin Ling. More and more people voiced out their opinions. They all believed that Lin Ling would not kill Zuyu. After all, this was a violation of the rules. However, how could they guess Lin Ling's way of doing things? Previously, Lin Ling had been ridiculed. If it were someone else, they would have already attacked. However, Lin Ling disdained to attack the weak and ignored them. And now, Zuyu wanted to kill him. How could he, Lin Ling, be afraid of the Academy's rules and not dare to make a move? Lin Ling's lips curled into a sinister smile. His right arm rolled like a dragon, and the powerful force caused Zuyu's pupils to bulge. The taste of death appeared in his mind. He wanted to beg for mercy, but he couldn't make a sound. This senior martial brother Lin Ling really made a move? Crazy. Upon seeing this, the second and third generations of the Resplendent Academy were dumbfounded. Monster Lin Ling's way of doing things was indeed different from ordinary people. Lin Ling, don't be impulsive. But at this moment, an anxious voice suddenly sounded. Ancestor Long looked at Lin Ling worriedly and shook her head. In the Resplendent Academy, disciples are not allowed to kill each other. Moreover, the first-generation disciples are even more so. Otherwise, it would be a violation of the Academy's rules. As long as one is a genius of the Resplendent Academy, no one can violate the rules. Lin Ling, you can teach him a lesson or even trample him under your feet, but you can't kill him. Ancestor Long continued to speak. Lin Ling's hand gradually loosened. His eyes flickered as he said, I still remember this rule. The Resplendent Academy is a place to nurture geniuses. It doesn't want geniuses to kill each other. His voice wasn't loud, but many geniuses nodded. They weren't surprised by Lin Ling's choice. Even Yu and the others were the same. Although Lin Ling is powerful, he still doesn't dare to violate the Academy's rules. Yes, in front of the Academy, even if Lin Ling is a dragon, he will still have to kneel down. Sounds of discussion could also be heard. After Lin Ling loosened his grip, so you could finally breathe again. However, being held by the neck in front of everyone, and whether he lived or died, he still had to see Lin Ling's expression. This made Zuyu furious. He felt that he had no face to see anyone. Haha, Lin Ling, you have guts. I can tell you that today's humiliation will be returned tenfold in the future. Moreover, you Lin Ling are a piece of trash, a coward. You don't dare to face a true first-generation disciple. The Grim Reaper has always wanted to fight you, but you didn't even dare to see his face and could only hide for 3 years. Haha, trash. Zuyu's voice was sharp, and he even spat at Lin Ling. It was as if he was saying, kill me if you have the guts. If you don't, you're trash. That arrogance made the crowd's pupils dilate. Mu Ran felt even more disgusted with Zuyu. If it wasn't for Lin Ling having scruples about the Academy's rules, Zuyu would have died long ago. He even spat. What an ugly person. However, Lin Ling didn't pay attention to Zuyu's words. He seemed to be thinking about something. The geniuses of the Resplendent Academy couldn't kill each other, but in the 3rd and 4th Ring City, there were so many people who came to kill him. There were experts like Lei Tianlan and the Sovereign Marquis. At that time, who knew where the Resplendent Academy was. Moreover, in these 3 years, the Grim Reaper spread rumors, making Yu, falling flowers, flowing water, and the others ridiculed in the Resplendent Academy. At that time, where was the Resplendent Academy? Thinking of this, Lin Ling pulled the jade token from his waist, threw it on the ground, and stepped forward. Pa! The jade token was broken. This action made everyone's eyes widen. They didn't understand what Lin Ling was doing. Even Ancestor Long Po was the same. Yours were you? Ranked 28th on the Tianhua leaderboard? Lin Ling's gaze started to wander and landed on Zuyu. That's right. You even had the chance to go to the 5th Ring City and meet the various heirs. Lin Ling, you're still too inexperienced to go against me. To be honest, in Qingzhou, I'll use 1,000 ways to kill you. Zuyu lifted his chin and said proudly. He didn't know that he was about to die. Pa! However, just as he finished speaking, he was met with a slap. It was a clean slap from Lin Ling. I asked you, are you Zuyu? Who asked you to answer such unimportant questions? That slap knocked out all of Zuyu's teeth. His eyes were burning with anger. Lin Ling didn't dare to kill him, but he humiliated him. Despicable. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Only Lin Ling had the courage to force a member of the strongest generation like this. You're only temporarily proud, Zuyu said in a low voice. Pa! However, Lin Ling was expressionless. He slapped Zuyu again. Did I ask you to speak? You. Zuyu didn't expect Lin Ling to be so arrogant. He didn't even give him the right to speak. Pa! Chapter 2687. An authority of the Qing state. This time, Zuyu was so angry that his body trembled. He glared at Lin Ling with resentment, but he did not dare to do anything. He was certain that if he dared to say another word, Lin Ling would beat him again until he dared not say another word. If news of one of the strongest generation falling into such a situation were to spread out, others would laugh their heads off. This Lin Ling is simply a madman. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? However, when Zuyu no longer dared to be arrogant and was about to settle the score, Lin Ling spoke again. This sentence made Zuyu snort in his heart. He almost wanted to say, "Do you dare?" But when his eyes met with Lin Ling's, he suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of panic. This was because Lin Ling's eyes were filled with killing intent. It was a terrifying massacre, a fearless massacre. Impossible, Lin Ling definitely wouldn't dare to kill him. Otherwise it would be a violation of the rules. And the surroundings suddenly became quiet, because people felt the killing intent on Lin Ling's body. Very strong, very cold. Even Ancestor Longpa sensed it. She shouted anxiously, "Lin Ling, don't be impulsive." Pa! However, just as she finished speaking, a crisp sound rang out. This was because Zuyu's neck had been broken by Lin Ling. His head was tilted to one side, and his eyes were still wide open. It was as if he died with his eyes wide open, and he couldn't understand why Lin Ling dared to kill him. Whoosh! However, not only did Lin Ling kill him, he even pulled off his head and held it in his bloody hand. He looked at everyone coldly. Plop! Everyone's hearts suddenly jumped violently. Lin Ling was so crazy, like a killing god. At this moment, they were completely in awe of Lin Ling. Was this still the senior brother Lin Ling, who had declined for 3 years? Lin Ling! Ancestor Dragon Granny shouted anxiously. Lin Ling had really killed him. I will never let go of anyone who wants to kill me. Lin Ling said indifferently. His voice was calm, but it was like a sharp sword that stabbed into everyone's hearts. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll pay them back tenfold. This was Lin Ling's principle. Alas! Ancestor Long also knew Lin Ling's temperament. After a long sigh, she hurriedly said, "Hurry up and leave Resplendent Academy. Violating the rules is not a small matter. There's no need to leave. Breaking the rules in front of everyone, Lin Ling, you've got guts." But right at this moment, a voice filled with majesty resounded, and an enormous pressure seemed to descend from the heavens, causing all the geniuses of the Resplendent Academy to tremble in fear. It was too terrifying. It was as if they were looking at an ancient giant. However, what was surprising was that the person who had come was not a giant, but a weak woman. She wore a neat uniform robe, and her long hair was tied behind her head. Her temples were gray, but she was wise and mighty, with a majestic aura. There was a sword hanging from her waist, and as she walked, a powerful aura surged out. Din Qin. Ancestor Long's expression changed drastically when she saw this, and she took the lead to salute. The entire Resplendent Academy was shocked. That woman, who seemed to be in her 40s, was the dean of the Resplendent Academy? This was an ancient figure who was elusive and elusive. Even Lin Ling was secretly shocked because this was the first time he had seen the dean. However, he could sense that the woman's strength was unfathomable. Vice Dean Gong and the others appeared behind the woman, and at this moment, they had bitter smiles on their faces. First generation Lin Ling, do you know your crime? After Din Qin appeared, she cast a cold gaze at Lin Ling and angrily shouted, "Kneel." Her voice carried the majesty of heaven, and it had an irresistible majesty. Plop! Before Lin Ling could kneel, all the geniuses of the Resplendent Academy knelt down in fright, their faces pale. "Why aren't you kneeling?" Din Qin was even more displeased when she saw that Lin Ling did not kneel. She had naturally heard of Lin Ling's name. He was the monster with the fastest cultivation speed in the history of the Resplendent Academy. However, he was extremely arrogant and had offended a large number of experts, giving the Resplendent Academy a lot of pressure. The biggest pressure came from the Empress Dowager, and it was obviously the idea of Old Mother Lane. Therefore, in order to appease the Empress Dowager, Qin Suizan had been reprimanded many times. "Why should I kneel?" At this moment, Lin Ling spoke with an expressionless face. As soon as he finished speaking, Din Qin's face turned gloomy, while Vice Dean Gong waved his hand incessantly at Lin Ling from behind. Even the Ancestor Dragon Granny flashed towards Lin Ling and pulled him to his knees. After all, Din Qin was an overlord of Azure Prefecture. Not to mention Lin Ling, even she didn't dare to rashly offend him. However, Lin Ling's bones were extremely hard. No matter how Ancestor Long Granny pulled, he did not move an inch. "You violated the rules of the Resplendent Academy and killed a generation. I asked you to kneel and admit your guilt, and you are actually dissatisfied?" Din Qin's voice became even colder as she reprimanded. "None of you are allowed to pull him. I want to see how arrogant this troublemaker is." Vice Dean Gong smiled bitterly and did not dare to wave his hand at Lin Ling anymore. Ancestor Long Granny was the same. "He wanted to kill me. Am I not allowed to resist?" Lin Ling replied indifferently. "He wanted to kill you, but he didn't kill you, so he didn't violate the Academy's rules. You killed him, so you violated the rules. You still dare to talk back?" Din Qin was getting angrier and angrier. If it weren't for the fact that there were too many disciples around, she really wanted to teach this arrogant Lin Ling a lesson. However, not only was Lin Ling not afraid, but he became even more arrogant. Dean Qin, what you mean is that I have to let him kill me before he can break the rules. What a joke, what a joke. I can tell you that if I die in his hands, you might not stand up for me. You. Dean Qin pointed at Lin Ling and flew into a rage. Was Lin Ling reprimanding her? Or was he laughing at her? She was about to speak, but Lin Ling spoke faster than her. The Academy's rules state that geniuses are not allowed to kill each other. He wanted to kill me first, so I retaliated. You don't blame him, but blame me? In Third Ring City and Fourth Ring City, there were many experts who wanted to kill me. Why didn't you act against them? They wanted to kill the geniuses of Resplendent Academy. So I don't understand where your rules come from. Also, when I was in seclusion for 3 years, my junior brothers and geniuses from other academies mocked and ridiculed me. At that time, I didn't see you standing up for our disciples. Please answer my question, Dean Qin. Lin Ling's words were like a string of cannons, causing Dean Qin to be stunned. For a moment, she couldn't refute. They wanted to kill you because they weren't from Resplendent Academy. The enemies you provoked outside were dealt with by yourselves. As geniuses, if you need the Academy's protection for everything, then what's the point of talking about the martial path? But soon, Dean Qin enunciated each word clearly. Hee, Dean Qin, you're very impressive. You only dare to be arrogant in front of your own people, but when others bully you, you don't dare to retaliate. Instead, you let your disciples deal with them. How ironic, how ironic. Lin Ling sneered. I, Lin Ling, might not be considered a big shot, but the battle on the drill ground and the Pride Tournament have greatly increased the glory of Resplendent Academy. Is this how you, Dean Qin, treat your own disciples? You're rebelling, you're rebelling. No matter how glib your tongue is, the rules are the rules. If you dare to kill a generation, you'll have to pay with your life. Chapter 2688. Retreat. Her body did not move, but a powerful energy condensed around her. She was like a god that could cover the sky. With her strength, she might not even need to use 10% of her strength to deal with Lin Ling. Lin Ling is dead. Sigh. Everyone sighed inwardly. In truth, they agreed with Lin Ling's words. As geniuses of the Resplendent Academy, they had won glory for the Academy time and time again. But now that they had offended an outsider, the Academy actually ignored them and let them handle it. This was too chilling. Most importantly, it was one thing for the dean to not help her own disciple, but to attack her own people? If not for Dean Qin's strength being too strong, they would have said that she was bullying the weak and fearing the strong. You don't dare to kill me. Sigh. However, just as Dean Qin's god's palm was about to reach him, Lin Ling remained standing there with his hands behind his back. What a proud young man. At this moment, the third generation, second generation, and even the first generation began to worship Lin Ling. What a joke. Sigh. However, Dean Qin snorted disdainfully. In front of her, Lin Ling could be arrogant? Not to mention a mere Lin Ling. Even Vice Dean Gong had to lower his voice in front of her. However, Lin Ling's next sentence caused Dean Qin's pupils to constrict. I'm no longer a member of Resplendent Academy. Sigh. The terrifying palm stopped in front of Lin Ling. What did you say? Dean Qin's eyes narrowed. The expressions of the surrounding people changed. Lin Ling said that he was no longer a member of Resplendent Academy? What did that mean? Lin Ling, don't be rash. Vice Dean Gong and Ancestor Dragon Granny suddenly thought of something and immediately shouted. As geniuses of Resplendent Academy, they are not allowed to kill each other. Otherwise, it would be a violation of the Academy's rules. However, cultivators from the outer realm can kill geniuses of the Academy. Resplendent Academy has always said that they should settle their own problems. This means that Resplendent Academy will not interfere in the affairs of cultivators from the outer realm. And now I've killed Zuiyu. What does it have to do with you? What does it have to do with your Resplendent Academy? Lin Ling stared at Dean Qin and said calmly. What do you mean? Dean Qin seemed to have guessed something, and her mood became complicated. Hearing this, Lin Ling didn't say anything. He waved his right hand, and the broken jade token on the ground fell into his hand. At this moment, Lin Ling had already trampled it into pieces. As he looked at the broken jade token, the corners of Lin Ling's mouth curled up into a mocking smile, and he lightly waved his right hand. The jade tablet floated in the air and scattered like flower petals. "I'm withdrawing." It was accompanied by an indifferent voice. Boom. Everyone felt as if their hearts were about to explode. They stared at the broken jade tablets that were falling from the sky and recalled those words. It was as if their hearts had been ruthlessly stabbed by a knife. Withdraw from the academy. The most monstrous genius in the history of Resplendent Academy had withdrawn from the academy. At this moment, it was as if a magnitude 9 earthquake had occurred in Radiant Academy. Lin Ling, no. Vice Dean Gong was the first to shout, shaking his head constantly. Lin Ling had helped Resplendent Academy obtain glory several times, and he was also the genius that Vice Dean Gong thought highly of. In the past, when Lin Ling fought against Genji in the Pride Tournament, Vice Dean Gong chose Genji and asked Lin Ling to forfeit the match. However, who knew that Lin Ling would reject his request and continue to fight. Instead, he defeated Genji and won first place in the Pride Tournament. At that time, he knew that Lin Ling couldn't be underestimated. He also knew that he had let Lin Ling down. And now, Lin Ling had chosen to withdraw from the academy. This was the first thing he didn't agree to, and he felt that it was a loss for Resplendent Academy. As for Ancestor Long, she and Vice Dean Gong both cast their gazes on Dean Qin. However, at this moment, Dean Qin was silent, and her eyes were mixed with complicated emotions. Lin Ling withdrawing from the academy was something she didn't want to see. This was because although Lin Ling was arrogant and unruly, he was indeed capable. However, Lin Ling had withdrawn from the academy in front of her. Did he still think that she was the dean? "After you leave, don't ever come back," Dean Qin shouted coldly. Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled. They knew that Dean Qin couldn't put down her face, so her attitude was firm. Lin Ling was also decisive enough to give up his endless future in Resplendent Academy. It would be good if such a person didn't grow up, but if he soared to the sky, he would definitely be a terrifying figure. Please remember, I'm the one withdrawing from the academy, not Resplendent Academy. Lin Ling didn't even look at Dean Qin as he enunciated each word clearly. You. Dean Qin wanted to say something, but obviously, she couldn't say anything. If she had expelled Lin Ling, she could still retain some dignity, but now that Lin Ling had withdrawn himself, it felt as if Lin Ling had abandoned her. "You think you can leave just because you want to?" She shouted angrily, unwilling to be trampled on by a junior. "Dean Qin, you're the dean of an academy and also a powerful figure in Qing province, so please don't go back on your words. Remember what you said before, the academy will ignore the cultivators from outside who came to kill the academy's geniuses. Now that I've killed Zuiyu, I'm a cultivator from outside. So, are you going to go back on your words and attack me?" Lin Ling's fearless voice drifted over, causing Dean Qin to stop in her tracks. Previously, she had personally admitted that the academy's geniuses had been hunted by cultivators from outside, and they had dealt with it themselves. Now, she had the nerve to stand up for Zuiyu. If she attacked, she would be going back on her words. If a dean went back on her words, how could she lead Resplendent Academy? Seeing Dean Qin speechless, the crowd shook their heads. Their gazes once again fell on Lin Ling, only to discover that Lin Ling was even more unyielding than they had imagined. He would rather withdraw from the academy than lower his head. He would rather withdraw from the academy than compromise. He was also very stubborn. Under the sunlight, the youth's figure grew longer and longer, gradually disappearing from everyone's sight. What he left behind was only endless glory and legends. In the battle on the drill ground, he was the #1 second-generation rookie. In the Pride Tournament, he was the strongest second generation. He killed his way into Four Ring City, not fearing authority, only for the peaceful place in his heart that he had to protect. All of this was the pride that the youth had left behind. What a pity. Many people secretly shook their heads. In the past 3 years, Lin Ling had disappeared without a trace. They thought that Lin Ling had declined, but who knew that Lin Ling would erupt in silence, suddenly appearing out of nowhere and defeating Zuiyu. He even dared to confront Dean Qin, shocking the world with a single brilliant feat. Sigh. Vice Dean Gong and Ancestor Dragon Granny sighed, secretly blaming Dean Qin in their hearts. After leaving Resplendent Academy, he's just a piece of trash. Everything he has today was given to him by Resplendent Academy. I'd like to see how miserable he'll be without Resplendent Academy. However, Dean Qin did not feel any pity. Instead, she sneered. Lin Ling had offended many experts. If he went out to roam Qingzhou, he would definitely end up as a pile of bones outside the city. Dean Qin, don't think that Lin Ling's current glory was given to him by Resplendent Academy. In fact, it was obtained through Lin Ling's own efforts. Let's not talk about other things, just take the siege of Four Ring City as an example. Resplendent Academy did not provide any support, so don't think too highly of yourself. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.